All right, Kingkillers, we're covering chapters 7 through 9 in this episode. We're going to discuss one of my favorite chapters here, the one where Kvothe gets the plum bob. Lots of funny parts in this one, as well as a very sad ending to it. We'll get to talk about Elodin setting Hemme's room ablaze and Kvothe's latest trek through admissions. You're also going to get to hear about the time Tim gave me a mild legal hallucinogen, as he says, that turned out to be nothing of the sort. I teach everyone how to make a delicious meat pie, and we let you know where Shoeless Joe Jackson got his nickname. So sit back and enjoy.
Welcome back, killers, to the foremost killer broadcast, Kingkiller Podcast. We are your hosts, Dan, Tim, and Fitz. Thus, our initials, DTF. For all you ladies who don't know, DTF is also another well-known acronym. We don't tolerate fatties. D, T, do you subscribe to this philosophy?
Nah, man, I mean, the big girls can listen to. They can subscribe. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with
DTF, that. It fits his opening there. Doomed to fail.
I was thinking, I was thinking, the laundry list, dildos, Tupperware, and formaldehyde. That's how you store them.
Is formaldehyde a P?
And formaldehyde. And
is formaldehyde an F?
Tupperware. You know what?
If it was spelled with PH.
If it's a PH, we'll go with flip-flops. There you go. You're welcome.
Dildos
down to flip-flop.
Okay.
Down to down to flop-flip.
Old flippy-flop.
That'd be...
Frederick Flippy-flop.
Yeah, what was it? Wasn't that Dalcenti's nickname first? Cinder? Hey, Flippy. What up, Flippy?
What up, Frederick?
Don't call me Flip. Well, it was doomed to fail. Let's just go ahead and move right past it, Dan. But thank you for, salvaging what we could. Chapter 7, entitled Admissions. In this chapter, Kvothe wakes up and heads down for breakfast at Anchor's, where an elegant woman buys him a drink in thanks for breaking Ambrose's arm. Unexpectedly, she runs off crying. Kvothe heads to admissions and in the courtyard quickly realizes he's been drugged. He goes to Simon for help, who recognizes the plum bob symptoms, warns and rationalizes with Kvothe, and finds fellow to trade tiles. Kvothe stays with Simon for a while, but then he returns to his room at Anchor's, where he's flooded with childhood memories and becomes emotional. Ari comes and comforts him. D.T.?
I like the aspect of it in the beginning where it kind of explains how their process goes as far as the masters. They leave out books for the students to read, to study. Like, here's the books you want to dive into. These are the questions I'm going to be asking. I like that aspect of it. See, he throws that in. He kind of just adds a little bit to the admissions process and explaining exactly what they're doing rather than they're just going in blind. They know what they have a semblance of what's coming to them.
I like that. I also like the sort of bleariness. Like when it opens up, he wakes up and he's still like bleary from lack of sleep. So we're kind of in his head in this like sort of, what everybody feels when they first wake up. And then, it keeps in that same sort of vein with like studying and the uncertainty of what you're going to have to be tested on and all that. I like how it's all in that sort of place. And then, the mysterious woman comes in.
Well, before that though, I like also the fact that when he's talking about how difficult it is to hunt down the books in the library, and that he's one of his biggest problems is he can't go into tombs and just get direct access to that. So he's describing going through trying to find these books, and you find different versions of the book than the one you're looking for, or the one that the masters are asking the questions from. So I like that aspect of it, because like he's in not too long from now in a handful of chapters, when he's in Elodin's class, Elodin gives him that knowledge when he sends him on that book hunt. He just gives him that brilliant education on how the library works, which Kvothe, tosses it aside like it was a complete waste of time. But Elodin actually gives him a masterful education on how the library works, and you get a little taste of why that's important here. It's kind of setting that scene up, is showing how difficult it is trying to find books in the libraries. He builds on that, and then Elodin, it pays off when Elodin kind of teaches him how to navigate the library by sending him on a book hunt.
I do also love, the many ways that he builds out how large this library is. I mean, so many different books from so many different places in the world, so many different versions of the same sort of subjects and knowledge. It's massive. And it's described like here in another way. It takes it even deeper than what we've already experienced. It's great.
Yeah. And if you ever had to deal with like an old textbooks, like, versus the revised version, if you bought the wrong one or you bought an old one, your brother or something had this certain book, so you inherited it. And so, I don't know, this brings back specific memories for me when I was in high school and college of having a dated textbook, and it just, you were never actually on the same page. You were in more ways than one, literally and figuratively.
It also reminds me of a few episodes ago when our Kindle versions were different than Tim's fucking book version.
Yeah, bingo.
I started writing down, after that, I've started to write down the chapter title every time just to see, because that was one of the main subjects where it came up. The other one was where they listed the masters, and Mandrag was in there, and your guys's it wasn't. So whoever runs Kindle, that's what it is. It's Amazon. They don't like Mandrag. They have some real beef with Mandrag for some reason.
It is very hard to update those.
But also there was a discrepancy because Kvothe had left anchors and then stopped by anchors. And in your book, he left the Aeolian.
Yeah, that's right too.
Yeah, and then Sweaty Sex comes in. The fucking Modegan lady who's just like super sweaty, sweating sex. And
I think they was talking about the accent. It was like
a
sweat sex. She's not sweating sex.
Oh.
What does that mean?
I misread that.
She's sweating
Tim,
sex.
I wanted to know how does an accent sweat sex? It made me kind of like nauseous. Like I was like, sweaty.
He
sex
does say
great.
He does say practically
fan.
Sweats sex. He didn't say literally, so that's kind of important.
Either way, the visuals the Rothfuss gives sometimes.
Apparently, it sounds sexual. The Modegan accent. So I wonder how he feels about Savoy.
Yeah, he gets.
Every
time Savoy starts talking,
that's probably where the
like
sweaty part comes
chub.
in.
He gets really uncomfortable. Like fidgets.
Stop! Shut up! Stop! Shut your mouth!
I don't know how I feel about this.
Stop fucking talking, man.
He is like 15 too, so he's at that impressionable age. So he's like, "Well, I don't know how I feel about this." His butthole's puckering up.
Why were her fingertips wet?
That was because of the plum bob. So like she goes over and she gets the drink and brings it back to him, and the reason the cup was wet is because of the chemical whatever she had on the glove from the plum bob was transferred to the cup, and then so once he touched the wet glass, that is how the plum bob got into his system. And then, that's why also she takes off the glove after after he's been dosed with it, basically.
Yeah, I really wondered, like,
So-
if she told him. God, sorry.
Well, I was going to say is that why she ran off crying? Was she dosed as well?
No, she ran off crying because she felt guilty.
She felt bad
Yeah,
for having
okay.
to do
That's
this.
what I
She was
assumed.
coerced into doing this. What I was
Yeah.
going to say was,
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wondered to myself, like, how much was she, like, when she says, may he fall into Ambrose Jackus, may he fall into a well and die. I wonder, does she mean that? Is that a line that was fed to her? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
She said with sudden fierceness, I think she's dead serious. I think she hates Ambrose, but he's got her fucking over a barrel. And
Yeah.
so the fact that he's making her do this, I think she's very angry. That's why she cries and runs out of the fucking place. She did not want to do this, but she's being forced to by Ambrose. So, yeah, I think her hatred of Ambrose seems very genuine. I don't think that was an act.
it's a great reveal, man. Because I love how this whole thing plays out. Because you're kind of like, I mean, you're in Kvothe's shoes. You're kind of like, what the hell's happening here? Who is this woman? What is this situation? What's going on? Is this like his reputation spreading? Now he's really starting to like hit it off with women. Women are coming to find him. And it kind of would make sense too, because so many people hate Ambrose that, he's even like, well, it wouldn't be the first time somebody bought me a drink on account of this. But yeah, as soon as she starts breaking down into tears and runs out of there, that's when it really picks up pace fast. Where you're like, oh shit, it's a great reveal.
Yeah, it's kind of a slow burn, not like super slow. Obviously, you find out what's going on within the chapter, but it's a step by step process where you start to piece it together. But like Ambrose timed it perfectly because he got her to go in there right before he has to go through the admissions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, which this is also interesting is, well, I guess you would know. How would he? Oh, I'm trying to remember. Was this when? Yeah. Wait. No, this was not when they.
No, but I'm sure it's not that difficult to
know if somebody's going
find
through
this
or
shit
not.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he could find out this information. I don't think it's it'd be that difficult. You could just have someone ask him, when do you go through, just casually.
Well,
So
yeah, and
doesn't seem like it would be.
his...
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that'd be very difficult to find out that information. But he does. He obviously knows because he's there. He has her go there right before he goes, and he shows up when he's in line. So he obviously knows. He timed it perfectly. But then,
well, I love too though. Like at the end of the scene where she runs out, he's like, "Should I go after her?" And then he's like, "Well, on the upside, the bizarre encounter seemed to have cleared my head. I no longer felt gritty and thick with lack of sleep." So again, first time reading, you're like, okay, well that's kind of weird. I wonder what's going on here. And then slowly, like you said, the slow burn. It slowly gets revealed to us as it gets revealed to Kvothe what the hell's going on here. It's the reveals are fantastic. The way he does it, Rothfuss does it in these is just freaking great.
On the reread, it's interesting anyway and obvious because he doesn't have any money and he's getting ready to go into admissions. He never buys shit for himself. He immediately goes and buys a meat pie and then he smells some almonds, so he goes and buys those too. Not very characteristic of Kvothe, who's always frugal because he has to be.
Yeah, he always talks about how he wishes he could, but instead he buys an entire pot pie, which sounds delicious, the way he describes it, and then the honeyed almonds. Yeah, again, Rothfuss has a great way of describing the food. Makes me want both of these things. I don't know if I'd really like either, but they both sounded tremendous.
Yeah, you're immediate. If you're going through it the first time, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? Why this guy's been scrambling for money the entire first two books for tuition, and as he's walking up to go through the admissions process, he's blowing his money. His mind gets cleared by it. Then he starts spending his money because of his inhibitions are gone, and then he goes up and he starts talking to that girl. He's like,
yeah, which is also out of character as well.
I mean, he seems pretty friendly with people. He's not like a shy kid, so that doesn't really surprise me that much. But his
No, but he does start
his
running off
demeanor,
at the mouth at her.
yeah, his personality is much more brash, and I mean, he's pretty brash to begin with, but it's to a whole nother level with once this shit happens. But I like where he's with her. You're Amelia, aren't you? I'm Kvothe. I know who you are, she said. I've seen you in the artificery. You should call it the fishery, I said. I held out the pouch. Would you like a honey almond? But I like that aspect of it where he's like, I'm Kvothe. She's like, yeah, dude, everybody knows fucking who you are, man.
She's like,
you're
oh,
dude
wait,
that was
you're
like
the guy
running through a fucking fire to save fella and who got
we've
whipped
all seen you
in front of
whipped
the university.
twice.
Yeah. When you broke Ambrose's
you also
arm,
got
where
you got thrown off a roof by Elodin.
Pretty aware.
Yeah, we kind of know about it.
Yeah.
But I also like this character Amelia, how she's like, Kvothe comes at her real obnoxiously, and she's like, immediately gets real mousy, like, you're talking loud, dude. Like, what's going on?
Shut the fuck up.
I,
You're like, you don't be shitting on the master standing right next to me. Like, what are you
I'm
doing?
getting ready to go through admissions
and talking to me.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, we're both doing this.
Yeah,
fuck these guys. Hey, did you hear us? Fuck you guys.
Time. Yeah.
Did you hear what me and Amelia said?
Me and
Fuck
Amelia.
you guys.
Fuck you. Fuck you, Hemme. Hey, Master Hemme. From me and Amelia, go fuck yourself.
Just waving her hands. I don't know this guy. Yeah, it's great though. I love like the whole thing, and it's perfect too because we're in agreement with Kvothe here because we've gotten to this point where it is like, yeah, Admissions is kind of fucked up. Like the way they do this. I mean, I feel like it was just a chapter or two ago where he talked to. Who was he talking to about the process? Maybe it's him and Kelvin, or not Kelvin, him and Simon, or I don't know. Well, yeah, Willem. Where it's like, yeah, why? I mean, all these guys get an even say when I don't even have somebody's. I'm not even in certain people's courses. But yeah, it's so, and I like, his inhibitions are down, so he's very brash about the way he puts it.
Yeah, and then it's a fantastic scene. Like after, he spits out the almond, and she just looks at him in complete disgust, and he's like, "Do these taste like plums to you?" And then Ambrose comes walking up. He's like, "Wonderful, Ambrose, your presence is the horseshit frosting on the horseshit cake that is the admissions interview process."
This interaction with Ambrose is one of my favorites, just because,
dude,
he just attacks him immediately.
Well, and he definitely goes. I mean, he goes too far. I mean, like way too far for like just two dudes around a bunch of people. And he just basically says he has a little dick and something else.
He goes.
Yeah, and he says,
I met one of your previous lady loves today. She was dealing with the sort of profound emotional trauma I assume comes from seeing you naked. He leaned close to Amelia in a stage whisper. I have it on good report that not only does Ambrose have a tiny, tiny penis, but he can only become aroused when in the presence of a dead dog, a painting of the Duke of Gibeah, and a shirtless galley drummer.
I don't know if it was before or after, but he's like, that hat makes you look like you want to have sex with little boys, and I want to slap it off your head right now.
Yeah, he keeps going, man.
Yeah, there's all these lines like I'll give you that. Nobody can make a woman run like you. You could give lessons. You could teach a class. And that hat makes you look like you fancy young boys. And I have a mind to slap it right off your head if you don't piss off. Speaking of which, how's the arm? It's feeling a great deal better at the moment. And yeah, and so then Ambrose sees him spit one of those out, and he's like, "What's the matter? Don't fancy plum?" And he was smiling, and then it says, it says a great deal for my state of mind that I simply watched him go confused. I lifted the patch to my nose and took a deep breath. I smelled the dusty smell of corn husk, honey, and cinnamon. Nothing at all of plum or nutmeg. How could Ambrose possibly know? and then he goes busting into Sim, and this whole fucking scene with Simon and Fella is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's
Before
hilarious.
you move to that, I want to just throw this out there, like, for having such a good plan, Ambrose, because it was a good plan, and he almost had him until his own pride fucked him over by having to say, "Oh, what's the matter? You don't like plums?" Hmm?
Yeah. If he had not
Dude,
gone
don't
up
say
to
that.
Kvothe, had he not gone up to him and to rub it in his face, Kvothe wouldn't have known.
And it
Yeah.
totally fixes his character because he's an arrogant little prick. So he can't. He's the villain in all these movies that tells his whole plan
Yeah.
right before it all blows up in his face.
Yeah.
He's that guy, man. And it fits his character because he's such a piece of shit. And but yeah, I love the whole scene with like the problem solving with Kvothe and Simon, and then also Fella getting involved. It's so great, man, and it's such a great reveal of like the particular depth of what the plumb bob does. Because to explain it in the way that they explain, or the way that it plays out, is just tremendous, man.
Well, like right in the beginning, as soon as he goes in there and he spits on the floor, and Simon gives him shit, and is like, "What were you, born in a barn?" I struck him hard across the face with the flat of my hand, sending him staggering up against the wall. "I was born in a barn, actually," I said grimly. "Is there something wrong with that?" And what in God's name is wrong with you? "Nothing's wrong with me," I said. "But you do well to watch your tone. I like you well enough, but just because I don't have a set of rich parents doesn't mean you're one whit better than me." I frowned and spit again. "God, that's foul. I have nutmeg.
I hate nutmeg.
Oh, I hate nutmeg. God, that's foul. I hate nutmeg. I have ever since I was a child." A sudden realization washed over Sim's face. "The taste in your mouth," he said. "It's like the plums and spice." I nodded. "It's disgusting." "God's gray ashes," Sim said, his voice hushed in grim earnest. "Okay, you're right. You've been drugged. I know what it is."
So
it would take a lot.
Sorry,
I was going to say it would take a lot for me. If I was in Sim's shoes, I'd hit him back. I can't help it. If somebody hits me in the fucking face, I mean, I would like to think that I could possibly be patient enough to be like, wait, what's going on here? But I just don't know if I have it in me.
No, I'm not going to let someone just punch me basically smack me in the face.
Well, we can deal with it after, but my initial reaction is I'm fucking hitting you right back, and then maybe cooler heads will prevail. But yeah, I don't take well to someone raising up on me for no fucking reason.
Yeah, it does.
Actually, when the other person is at fault to begin with.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like it would have been a good idea for Sim, because
no,
it sounds like both would have like pulled out that knife and started stabbing him to death.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to say there's an aspect to that that's left out between when Sim gets slapped and when he realizes, after Kvothe spits again, like what was his reaction to it, to Kvothe smacking him? I'm guessing that he had the fear of God put into him. Knowing Kvothe and knowing his strength and everything else, like smacking Sim, sending him into the wall, like, and Sim being, this little quiet guy that he is, was probably
flabbergasted,
like,
and yeah,
Sim's
doesn't seem like the type that's gonna start fucking throwing down. Like, I mean, he's gonna be more like, what the fuck is going on?
His expression, pure astonishment, and it is just like, wait, what the hell's going on here? Like, this isn't you. Why would, like, that's a way overreaction. What the hell's going on? And then he just doubles down with what you read that Kvothe says to him. And then luckily he says nutmeg, and he's like, oh shit, that's what's going on. Okay. Dude, I love how Kvothe is just like, all right, I'm going to kill Ambrose. Yeah, peace out. Yeah, like it's like, but it's just, I love the presentation of it's just matter of fact. Like, I'm going to go kill him. No big deal. See you later.
Yeah.
This is the rational thing to do next. And he just has knife in hand, ready to go. It's like, whoa, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, and so then we learn it's an alchemical thing that's been done to him. Some kind of alchemical mixture has been put into him. So yeah.
Well, so I love, like, so again, the way that plays out Where'd you get that knife? I keep it strapped to my leg under my pants for emergencies. Could you give me a minute to explain before you go kill Ambrose? Okay. Would you mind sitting down? He's like, fine, but hurry. I've got admission soon. He's still like, I have this list of things to do. So now I gotta kill Ambrose. Then I got admissions.
Fucking admissions.
So,
then
but
after
Sim's
that,
great,
I'll probably
man.
have to take a bath, get all the blood off my hands.
Sim, this is a great illustration of Sim, and this is part of what I think impresses Fella is the patience that he has here. Because if I were in his shoes, I'd probably laugh there. It's like, you're not doing any of this shit. Instead, he just sits down. Okay, so when someone's been drinking, he starts to explain it. So he takes his time. And he's really patient with them, and he's dealing with an irrational person, which this is the guy to have around if you're going to do some crazy drug shit. This is the calm head that can prevail and steer you through it.
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily it's one of those drugs where the other person still has a semblance of rationality to him, where you can explain it. Even though he might not understand why the shit's happening, you can still at least explain it to him, and he can still think somewhat logically, where he would trust you. Because, I don't know if you've experienced this, but normally, like, if you're talking to someone who's drunk or on drugs, they're not the best listeners.
Yeah, you're entirely right about that. Yeah, that's an interesting side of it, because he is like, okay, it's like you're drunk, because I don't feel drunk. Yes, it's not like that. It's just that's a piece of it. It won't make you dizzy or tired. It just makes it easier for you to do something stupid. So it's like that inhibitions being down type thing is what he's drawn at. And then the way to start to tease it out. And luckily, Kvothe is brilliant, so he starts to like really piece it. He always seems just interested in finding the reality of the situation. And even in this context, it's happening to him, within him, but he still is able to see like, okay, so, all right, well, and I guess we can keep going, but I love like the ranking thing, and this is where we start to get that quote that we've talked about before, where it's I'm telling you this 3 times, and is this a 1 to 10? How crazy is this type thing?
Well, yeah, I like he decides to have Simon be his like touchstone to tell him to advise him on what to do and what not to do, and then but he's like, except for when it comes to women, you're an idiot with women. Like, he just gets a nice little dig in. Fucking right there. But and not only that, he's like gets a dig in, but he's being dead earnest.
Well, I like sort of when he starts to realize he even needs a touchstone. He's like, because Sim's like, can you think of something that would be a bad idea? And Kvothe's like, jump off the roof. But then even to himself, he's like, oh shit, that's not even obvious to me. So that's when he says, oh, I see the problem. I don't seem to have any behavioral filters. And so they take it from there, and then they're sort of going back and forth. But I like that
Sim's hatred of Ambrose, where he's like, all right, killing Ambrose is a 10. Well, maybe it's 8. A 7. Let's call it a 7. Let's say a 3. It's a 1. It's a 1. Go ahead and kill him.
Well, I like when he says it. Kvothe is like, wait, really? That much? Even when he brings it down to 7, he's like, really? That much?
Yeah.
Huh. Jesus, man. You're murdering another person?
Frankly, if I was Sim, I would rank spitting on my floor higher than killing Ambrose. I wouldn't have been like a 1 spitting on my floor. Like, spitting on my floor is a fucking 10. I don't care. We're establishing that that's a don't keep spitting on my floor. I'm not going to fucking put it at a 1. Even if I'm lying, I'm still going to say it's a 10. If I'm making up the list anyways, why am I ranking spitting on my floor so low?
Yeah, I can definitely see you taking advantage of this.
Yes. Well, I'm certainly going to take advantage of it as far as don't spit on my floor. That's anything messing with my stuff or my property, that is a 10. Don't do it.
Yeah, but I can see Dan being like, okay, now there's a Brinks truck on the corner out there. What do you think would be a good idea to do with that Brinks truck? Oh, rob it? Yes, that would be a good idea. Go out there.
Or when Fella's in there, he's like, yeah, don't do that. But then you lean over to Kvothe like, hey, man, ask her again.
Couldn't do
Like give him a
that.
little nudge. Like, hey man, ask her
Yeah.
again. It's cool.
Look,
I was lying. It's not a 10.
Got that shirt
Like a
off. I
2.
mean, it's pretty hot in here. I don't even. Why you still got your pants on? That's the question.
Are
but
you
yeah,
talking
so
about
then
Kvothe or Fella?
Yeah, I would certainly take advantage of the situation. Kvothe would be very mad at me when he sobered up and realized what the fuck was going on. Because, yeah, he'd be walking butt naked through the university.
I think you can laugh about it. You'd be like, yeah, but dude, that's funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I love that you destroyed my reputation. I find this very, very funny. I have a very good sense of humor about this.
So then we do get that line. So he's like, all right, well, I need to get to admission, so let's wrap this up. And he's like, nah, man, bad idea. That's like an 8. I'm like, really? Yeah, it's a delicate situation. A lot of things could go wrong. And just imagine, I mean, if he was full peeking out on this thing, that could go really bad. So that's where they get to, this is going to get tedious if I have to tell you everything 3 times before you listen. I thought about it for a moment. You're right, especially if I'm about to do something potentially dangerous. How long is this going to last? Blah, blah, blah. But that's the 3 times, and then they start saying, I'm saying 3 times, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Or I guess
where
maybe I'm jumping
that
ahead
comes
there.
in. Well, no, that's kind of where I was at too. But the aspect I like of it, because it reminds me of some shit with Tim, where it was like, how long is this gonna last? And he's like, no more than 8 hours. Because I remember Tim one time like going to me, he's like, hey, calls me up, and he's like, hey, you want to try this mild legal hallucinogen? And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll try it. And I'm thinking, I hear mild and legal. I'm thinking like, okay, well, this isn't going to be like anything. So sure, I'll try something mild and legal. And it turns out it's salvia. And so like he gives me a bowl of this shit, and I just take a big old rip. I mean, I took a massive rip, and I'm like holding it in. And before I could hand him back the bowl, I had like a force like pushing me out of my chair. And like I felt like I was getting boxed into a box by a force as I'm handing him back this. And I started laughing, but I also had this intense panic setting in because I didn't ask him a question. He just handed me a bowl and I hit it. I didn't know anything of what I was doing. My expectations were so low that I didn't even ask a question. And as I'm like falling over out of my chair, I'm trying to hand him the bowl, and I just like dropped the bowl on the ground. And then I was like, turned to him and I was like, how long is this gonna last? And he was like 10-15 minutes. And then it was like, okay, all right. Because if you had said like 8 hours, I would have been like, no fucking way, dude. What did you do to
the rest of your life?
The good news is it didn't even last that long. But I remember I was
it was a good 15 minutes before I was like even halfway normal again. But yeah, it was like the most intense 5 minutes of my life, where like I literally like transported in my mind to a different plane.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like I wasn't even in the same plane. It was by far the most. To describe that as a mild legal hallucinogen should be a crime, because that was the most intense 5 minutes of my fucking life.
I remember when you asked me, I was looking at it on Wikipedia. I don't remember how I came across it originally, like that day, but I was looking at it on Wikipedia, and that's what it was described as. Yeah. And then when you were like, how long is this going to last? I'm looking it up, and I'm like, 10 to 15 minutes. It would have been hilarious. I would have been like, just like a day. You'll be fine. Yeah. Good luck in that box.
A couple weeks.
Oh, man. It was so fucking intense.
Well, forever. I thought you knew. I thought you wanted to change your life. Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And it's crazy. You can buy that at a head shop.
Yeah.
And go pretty nuts. Like absolutely crazy on it.
Yeah, it's a wild experience. There's not anything I've ever done like it. But yeah, so
Kvothe, but now you do it like every week, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that your thing?
Yeah. I like to wake up, just wake in salvia. Get my day started way. Like
I like
to
how
see, go into a demon realm for when I wake up in the morning.
It just makes you appreciate sobriety more.
Yeah.
Oh, now I can actually handle the world. Okay. All right. Because I thought I was going to lose my mind for a minute here.
The few minutes of the day that Dan does get a sobriety, he really appreciates it. But then he's got to get another rip of that salvia.
The rest of the day is just ripping salvia.
If I was forced to do that every morning, like every night, I would just be like fucking sweating, like trying to go to sleep and not being able to sleep just because you're fucking panicking about the morning. I can't do this again. I don't think I can go through this one more time.
I can't really envision people doing it multiple times.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
It's not a recreational fucking drug.
No, for sure. It's like, okay, well, that was insane. I'm going to move on with my life now. I do like how specific they get here with Sim delivering the. There might be some side effects, how it's lipid soluble, so it hangs around for a bit. So we get that explain what we're going to expect of the echoes that he gets from the plum bobs later. So that's pretty well. That's necessary because of where we're eventually going to go. But
it plays a huge part in the next quarter of the book. Those echoes keep popping up in inopportune times.
Oh yeah, so I like so then it's all right. So give me your admissions tile, so I don't have to worry about admissions. And he's like, "Well, I already went. All right, go get fella." No. Like immediately, Sim's mind jumps to like, let's get some women in here. What are we doing? Let's make this a party or something.
I love the Telu tits and teeth too. What a fucking interesting fucking curse. Telu's tits and teeth. Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah, first of all,
that was something Fitz came up with, fucking with his alliterations.
Hey, if I can throw back to the echoes part of this thing, man. So not only is it true to life, because there's certain aspects of that where something gets brought up, or if there's something that means a lot in your own life, when certain things happen, it has ripple effects that move on. But specific to the story, though, man, it's the echoes that he does have. They really they send Kvothe to himself the way he is exponentially. With his anger and his emotions. I mean, you see in a couple chapters his sadness with Arya when he starts telling. No, it's this chapter.
Yeah.
He nearly tells her what happened, or basically does tell her everything except what actually happened, which he's never told anybody. But also the anger that he has, and I wonder if in the third book with whatever the big. The big lead is that Kvothe goes through, if he's going to start tasting plum right before that happens.
Yeah, I don't think it's still in his system this many years later, but it certainly impacts him here for the next while he's at the university. I think it's pretty much out of his system before he gets out of the university. But he's fucked up with it for. A good decent amount of chapters after this.
Was it like a chemical that it leaves his system eventually, or?
Yeah, it's
because
it
even
eventually
with some
runs its
chemicals,
course.
they never leave.
Yeah, it eventually runs its course. He's not still fucked up with it, for the rest of the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. And it definitely we will get it, and we'll get to it when he jumps to anger much quicker than he would. And almost sounds a little bratty with Elodin, and then obviously on the horns as well, says things that typically he would hold back from. It's fun. It's fun to read that stuff, man. Yeah. If he was plumb bobbed up for the whole book, it'd be interesting. He'd be a bit irrational, a bit. He wouldn't be as clever as he really is. But
well, that's what I meant by it. Kind of just makes Kvothe more of who he is, because he does shit like that all the time. He rushes in his anger. He rushes into things, whether it be a dangerous situation or just saying things that he probably should hold his tongue on.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I mean,
definitely lowers inhibitions.
It's kind of funny though if you think about it. I mean, how many people out there think, "Well, I'm a fun drunk." They think they're a better version of themselves, and then just ask a bunch of their friends if that's the case, and then you find out, yeah, maybe not.
It all depends.
Maybe not so much.
Like, are they drinking too, or are they sober? Because
if
they're sober, no one's better. If everybody's getting drunk, then yeah, it's a fucking great time. You just don't want to be on the outside looking in because it's a fucking terrible experience.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I mean, it's so great how this whole thing plays out, man. And one thing I didn't mention before, but definitely happened to me on the read through that I did previous to this, what I'm doing now, where I'm kind of doing it in segments. I forgot how quickly it gets to the plum bob, and I just remember the pace just like really, it feels like it takes off because it's one of the things that from book 2 that really does stick out. Like if you were to give a summary of book 2, you might not mention it, if you're just off the top of your head. But once you read it, you're like, oh yeah, this is very impactful.
Oh,
it's fun.
This whole chapter
really fun to read.
Is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite chapters of both books. I say that about a lot of chapters, but this really is just because of where it brings you. Like there's this nice rise of. There's a ton of humor in this chapter. There's a ton of funny moments, and then. It's also one of the darkest, most depressing chapters as well.
It's a roller coaster. But think of the premise of where we're sort of at now. So our character here, Kvothe, is in a room on drugs, not really sure what he's capable of, what he's going to do. Sim leaves to go get the hottest woman in the university and comes back, and now they're at the door. And it's like, what's he doing in there?
Yeah,
that's where we're at. It's fucking great.
Here. Like, is everything good? Opens the door, sees he's just, chilling with his shirt off. It's like, all right, dude, put your fucking shirts back on.
Well, I love Kvothe's. I tried to think of something funny I could do while you were gone, but I couldn't. I think that means humor is rooted in social transgression. I can't transgress because I can't figure out what would be socially unacceptable. Everything seems the same to me.
Yes,
like that's a great little tangible,
and it's it's great commentary on comedy because there's so many people, I shouldn't say there's so many. There's a very, very small minority that's very vocal about the fact that they get offended by jokes, and they really want to explain why you shouldn't tell jokes that offend them. Like, go fuck yourself. The whole how are you supposed to be funny if you can't offend anybody? Like,
well, I think we've touched on this.
You're not special.
On
Shut
this
the fuck up. Move the fuck on.
But it goes to show how great Kvothe is, even in his worst. What you guys said earlier about him being brilliant, like he's putting together. Okay, well, I can't understand humor, and I can't understand what's right and wrong. So there's got to be a correlation here.
Yeah.
Well, I love what Dan was just talking about. The correlation there is this person sucks.
Yeah.
And they're revealing it. It's like you're putting a big sign on your whatever, your whole persona that you suck. I don't want to spend any time with you. Thank you for making that clear.
Yeah. It's like
the comedy clubs are not for you. Just steer yourself elsewhere, man.
I'm offended. I don't like you. So I guess we're at a stalemate.
It's got to be that half of your sense of humor has got to be, like how much offensive shit you can look at and understand why it's funny.
Or if it's not a funny, like I can understand where something would offend you or bother you, or something bad happened to your mom died of cancer, so a cancer joke's not going to be funny to you, but you just move on with your fucking life. Like you don't,
don't think it's funny.
That's offensive, so you shouldn't tell that joke to me. It's like no. Just because it's you don't find it funny doesn't mean it's not funny. It's like, get the fuck out of here with your rules of comedy.
But it seems like I'm going to dig my heels in and spend some time in this moment.
Yeah.
To be offended.
Yeah.
To lash out.
I have no issue.
Instead of just moving on with my life, which you're going to have to do anyway.
There are certain topics I don't find funny when people joke about them. Like, I don't find them funny, but I don't get mad that they're telling jokes about them. I don't find that shit funny because of different shit in my life, but I don't make a thing out of it. I just fucking, it's not my thing. So I just don't watch comedy, geared towards that. Or
quite similar.
Like, wait until something else comes up that's funny to me.
Somewhat similar. My wife was listening to NSYNC today. I don't like NSYNC. I got really offended, and I pouted for a while because that's how much I don't like it. It was very offensive that she did that to me.
Yeah, well, that
she played NSYNC in my presence.
Yeah, well, that's because it's not New Kids on the Block, so that is offensive. And if you're gonna play a boy band, you play the best boy band,
the boy band,
K-pop.
What are you talking?
I don't even know.
New Kids on the Block.
I don't even know what. Are they new?
Yeah, they're new and they're fucking kids, man. They're on the block.
Oh, thanks for breaking it down. Okay, you know what? Now I think I get it.
Yeah,
I'll give it a listen now. Now that you explain it to me.
But I like how when Fella comes in, he's like, "Fella, you're just gorgeous," and I fucking hit my stupid notes.
Immediately, the first thing he says once she walks in, "Fella, you are just gorgeous. I would give you all the money in my purse if I could just look at you naked for 2 minutes. I'd give everything I own except my loot."
Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal.
I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? Because he gets Sim and Fella both just blush deep red, and he's like, "Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that, was I?" No, that's about a 5. That doesn't make any sense. Women are naked in paintings. People buy paintings, don't they? Women pose for them. That's true, but still, just sit for a moment. Don't say or do anything, okay? And then Fella's just like, "Wait, what? Are you guys just fucking with me?"
Like when
I think you guys are. Huh?
I like right after that he asks him do you know what would happen if you tried to knife Ambrose? And he's like, there'd be a trial, I suppose I said slowly, and people would buy me drinks. And which is worse, stealing a pie or killing Ambrose? I gave it a moment's hard thought. A meat pie or a fruit pie? Wow, Phyllis said breathlessly. It almost makes my skin crawl. But
yeah, that's pretty. That really shows you the depths of. It's funny too because at this point we're taking that seriously, especially with Phyllis' reaction. Because you could be like, he's funny. He's just joking around.
Well, it is fun. Yeah, it is. It's a funny line, but yeah, he's being being completely earnest. It's not. He's not joking when he's asking that question. So yeah, if that's a legitimate question that you're legitimately asking, searching for an answer. Yeah, then you're gonna be like, what the fuck, dude?
Well, and then with Sims, go ahead,
Tim. Well, I was going to say, with Tim, maybe it would be. I mean, he's a big pie fan.
Yeah.
So, it could be a big deal if somebody stole his pie.
I mean, a meat pie? That's just like a pot pie, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not gonna kill somebody over a pie. I'll say that.
It's like a pie, the crust, except for just like filled with bologna.
Oh God, what?
Cold.
I was not picturing that bologna. At all.
Cold bologna in the middle.
So judging by Dan's recipe for apple pie, which is just put full apples in, you just putting a big chunk of bologna. Yeah. It's not even. Oh my God!
You just open the pack bologna and just dump it in there afterwards, and then just cover the top.
Man, that sounds gross. That makes my skin crawl.
Maybe some some mushroom soup in there or something. Make it like a pot pie,
See, the mushroom soup with maybe some, some beef,
fried
pork.
What about fried bologna? What about fried bologna?
Not a pie, bro. That
Yeah.
just sounds...
No? I don't know. I'll tell you this right now. You give me something like that, I might think about killing somebody if they try to take it from me.
Yeah.
Wow, you are a rational human being. A bologna pie.
I pride myself on my lack of inhibition.
Kill somebody over a hot dog?
Yeah.
Jesus. You're pretty intense about your food.
I guess we have, different value systems.
Yes, we do. We definitely do.
I like, though, you get to learn a little bit about alchemy, because we don't learn much about alchemy in either book, but we do learn a little bit here. Like when she's like, is there a cure? Shouldn't we take him to the Medica? And he's like, I don't think so. They might try a purgative, but it's not as if there's a drug working through him. Alchemy doesn't work like that. He's under the influence of unbound principles. You can't flush those out the way you would try to get rid of mercury or ophalum. Which, and it comes into play later on, too, like when he's getting rid of the, what is the Mayor Alvaron? Was it iron or not iron? It's, whatever he's being poisoned with. He's like trying to flush that out of his system. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, he's trying to flush that out of his system. And this is something completely different. You can't flush it out of your system. It's in you, and it's just going to, burn itself off. Similar like to the chemicals that he puts on his hand. Like, that just like it starts eating away, after, so much time. There's not really much you can do about it. It's just going to fucking burn itself out.
Well, I do like the explanation as well, where Sim explains that Mandrag, who teaches the alchemy class, uses this as an example of alchemy gone wrong, basically used in a way that can really screw things up. And I like the story really deepens the intensity of what a plumb bob can do. And when he says an alchemist used it to ruin the lives of several government officials in Ator about 50 years ago, he only got caught because a countess ran amok in the middle of a wedding, killing a dozen folk. I mean, that's pretty intense, man. Like, yeah. I mean, well, and that also speaks to the unpredictable nature of it. Like, I could see him giving it to government officials and people doing crazy shit, having orgies in public or something like that, like ruining their name. But then suddenly somebody kills a dozen people. And it's like, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think what did it say? His wife gave him up.
Yeah, his mistress.
The alchemist's mistress turned him over to the guards. Yeah.
It sounds crazy, Tim, but, was there hot dogs or pie involved? Because,
Jesus. Yeah, man, I mean, you're drugging people. You're playing a dangerous, dangerous game here. That's for sure.
A Mickey.
I like
Yeah, this is one hell of a Mickey.
The whole end of this little section's phenomenal, too, because you get, like, him completely flipping out, and then you get some good comedy, too, where he's like, and there's a chance they might think he's cracked under admission stress, Sim said to Fella. That happens to a few students every term. They'd stick him in Haven until they were sure. I was on my feet, my hands clenching into fists. I'll be cut into pieces in hell before I let them stick me in Haven, I said, furious. Even for an hour, even for a minute. Sim blanched and took a step back, raising his hands defensively, palms out. But his voice was firm and calm. Kvothe, I'm telling you 3 times. Stop. I stopped. The fellow was watching me with wide, frightened eyes. Simon continued firmly, Kvothe, I'm telling you 3 times, sit down. I sat. And then you get the great line where he's like, even if things did go smoothly at the Medica, I expect you'll be more inclined to speak your mind than usual. He gave me a small, wry smile. Secrets are the cornerstone of civilization, and I know you have a few more than most folk. I don't think I have any secrets, I said. Sim and Fella both burst out laughing at the same time. I'm afraid you just proved his point, Fella said. I know you have at least a few. So do I, Sim said. But yeah, that's fucking line's great. He's like, I don't think I have any secrets. Like, yeah, okay. Well, you are fucked up then.
I like how it gets real intense there too. When he's like, nobody's putting me in there. He's like, it gets, he's unpredictable and he's like irrational. So they have a bit uncontrollable, thing that they're dealing with here, which is really interesting. thing to consider, like in the room with them, you know?
Well, Elodin gave him a nice little tour of Haven, and that left an impression on him. It's like,
well, I wanted
nope.
to say, and it's brought up later on, kind of because of the similarities between Denna and Kvothe, but I would think that Kvothe doesn't seem like the type that would, take well to any kind of constraint. Like a Rolling Stone type of person, or someone who's been on their own their whole life. People who move out when they're 18 and never look back type of people don't, any kind of authority, any kind of, especially, behind bars or under some kind of lock and key. That's the opposite of what Kvothe needs. And so I think it goes to show why he's acting the way he does right now when they just even bring up that he'd be cracked and put in the I'm sorry, what is it?
The Haven. Yeah, in Haven.
Oh, the Crookery.
The Crookery.
Yeah. The Crookery,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, that's a terrible place for anybody, and Kvothe, especially would not be the type to fucking go down there. I mean, you see him with how protective he is of Ari.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd be a similar situation to Ari as well, where he's fine where he is. Yes, he's on drugs right now, and this, but that's going to wear off. And if they put him in there because of it, who knows how he'll get back out, or when, or if he can.
Yeah, I would be the same way. Even, I don't have to be, an 18-year-old on my own. Yeah, you're lock me in a padded room. No, fuck no. You're gonna go to war, fucking getting me into that room.
Well, do you know what I'm saying though? Like later on when
I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, even if you're not like that, like the idea of being locked in a padded room, I think most people can appreciate the idea of fighting that with everything you fucking got.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. You're never going to convince me, but dude, I love the little, how Kvothe just keeps pulling out the purse.
Well, at first he just pulls out the purse to like buy, to get her talent, and not to buy it, but like to swap admissions tiles with her. And but he pulls out the purse and Sim's like, no, I've already told you, seeing her naked would be the worst thing in the world right now. Fellow's eyes narrowed a little bit at that, and then he's like, "Are you worried I'll sack her?" This is one of my favorite parts of the chapter, though, where he's like, "Are you worried I'll tackle her to the ground and ravage her?" I laughed. Sim looked at me. "Wouldn't you?" "Of course not," I said. I looked at Fellow, then back. "Can you say why?" he asked curiously. I thought about it. "It's because," I trailed off and then shook my head. I just can't. I know I can't eat a stone or walk through a wall. It's like that. Basically, and right after that, then it's like, please tell me I'm right about that, I asked, suddenly scared. Yeah. I can't eat a stone, can I? You're right, Phyllis said quickly. You can't. I stopped trying to rummage around in my mind for answers, and the odd vertigo faded away. And Sim was like looking at him intently and was like, what does that mean? Phyllis like, I think I have an idea. So I think what Fella is like, like this guy's Mr. I'm not into rape. And so Mr. I'm not into fucking rape was having a fucking quandary with himself with his inhibitions gone.
This is the polite way of showing you're not into rape. Rather than walking up and saying, hey, just so you know, not into rape. The way you do like it is
what's the immovable, it's one man versus the movable object. What is that? What's the two lines? The unstoppable force versus the unmovable object. Oh yeah. And so Kvothe's fucking, I'm not a rapist. I think rape is wrong. Like, and then, but his inhibitions are gone too. Like, so like those two fucking forces were fucking colliding there. So he's giving him vertigo.
I just can't. I can't. I don't know what. I just can't. I can't eat rocks.
It's wrong. I don't know why. It's wrong.
I do like also that I can't eat a stone, can I? Like making sure, like having to, again, it gives that depth to what he's dealing with, what he's wrestling with in his mind. It's fucking great. It's good stuff.
But it doesn't make sense to me because, if he doesn't understand why murder's, not wrong, why does he understand rape's not wrong? Other than it's just an arbitrary decision that Rothfuss made.
Because he's such a
good dude. Yeah.
He's such a great guy, but he's willing to murder people.
Yeah. He's not a rapist. Just to reiterate, rape. But he would murder at the drop of a fucking hat.
Not only is he not into rape, his entire bloodline not into rape. Now his entire bloodline, they'll murder a few people here and there. It sounds like so that's not, his in his makeup. He's willing to slit some throats along the way, but he's not willing to pin Pike to the ground and do what was done to him.
Yeah. Yeah, so that aspect of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, other than it's just kind of an arbitrary thing that Rothfuss put in to, to solidify that rape is wrong. But I like too, though, when it moves back in where he's like, I drew the ivory admissions out of my purse. I was just looking to trade. I said, unless you are willing to let me see you naked. I hefted the purse with my other hand and met Fella's eye. Sim says it's wrong, but he's an idiot with women. My head might not be screwed on as tightly as I'd like, but I remember that clearly. He's fucking just fucking shitting all over fucking Sim in this whole scene with women.
Yeah, I love the... I mean, look, I'd like to see you naked. Sim says not to, but he doesn't know how to hit on women. This is my best line.
Yeah. And also, you know what? It's probably true. Knowing what we know about Fella and how she feels about Kvothe, she's probably like, get out of here, Sim. Just leave for a little while. Leave us here.
When he went, and he was all jazzed up about getting into the archives, that might have been his moment. He could have used this line then. It's not a great line, but he could have at least attempted then. He would have had a better shot then, just the two of them, because we know how much she's into him.
I think it would have been a kind of a turn off. She's standing there with, basically naked. And he all of a sudden pulls out his purse. Drop the sheet. Drop the bed sheet. It's all yours. All 3 pennies I own. You can have all 3 of my pennies.
That's the problem, is he's offering the money. He should just be like, wow, I would like to see you naked. Can we do that? Can we make that happen? The fact that he's offering the money, that's
he should probably be a little more subtle. I think he could get in there with a little less fucking desperation.
Yes. 100%. She's been reacting to the fact that he's basically not interested.
Yeah.
That's what she wants. So she doesn't need him throwing money at her.
He goes 180 degrees the opposite direction from like fucking obliviousness
what's been working
to fucking intense desperation. I'll give you anything, everything I own. Like she's going through like a fucking whipsaw of emotions with this dude. Like, man, he just doesn't like me. And then he's like, I'll give you everything, anything I own, just to see you naked for a few minutes.
Except my loot. But yes, everything else. And, but, I don't know this 100% because I don't remember 100%, but if I remember right, I think she starts to lose her interest at this point. She's not quite as interested in old Kvothe after, he offered to pay her to see her naked. So it didn't work out.
Yeah, she stays pretty interested in him. Like, it doesn't...
She moves on.
Not
eventually.
Until she thinks he's dead.
Oh.
Remember, she was like, Sim even tells her, Fella was pretty broken up when,
that's
she heard. She had a pretty big thing for you.
Yeah, but there is the moment where
he she thought he had passed on.
Yeah, there is a great moment where she sees Sim
for
who he is.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that kind of changes everything
for
around.
Sure. But she was still fucking hankering for some fucking redhead. For some weird reason.
I bet Sim and Fella just talk about it all the time, how Kvothe offered to pay her. That's how hot you were.
Yeah. Hey, you remember when you were into my best friend? Like, that was awesome.
Well, if he's as bad with women as Kvothe says he is, then he probably... then he might bring that up.
Remember how much you liked Kvothe? Oh, wasn't he fun?
Oh, man.
But yeah, then it ends on a dramatically different note because he goes back, and once Sim dips out, then he's just kind of left, just by himself with his own thoughts. And I like the aspect of the way it's described, where he's like, no, the worst memories, or he's like, I hadn't been that bad when I was with Simon. His presence was a pleasant distraction, but alone in my small garret room in Anchors, I was at the mercy of my memory. It was as if my mind was determined to unpack and examine every sharp and painful thing I'd ever seen. You might think the worst memories were those of when my troop was killed, of how I came back to our camp, found everything aflame, the unnatural shapes my parents' bodies made in the dimmed twilight, the smell of scorched canvas and blood and burning hair, memories of the one who killed them, of the Chandrian, of the man who spoke to me, grinning all the while, Cinder. And no, the worst memories were those of my young life. The slow roll of the bump of riding in the wagon, my father holding the reins loosely, his strong hands on my shoulders, showing me how to stand on the stage so my body said proud or sad or shy, his fingers adjusting mine on the strings of his lute, my mother brushing my hair, the feel of her arms around me, the perfect way my head fit into the curve of her neck, how I would sit curled in her lap next to the fire at night, drowsy and happy and safe. These were the worst memories, precious and perfect, sharp as a mouthful of broken glass. I lay in bed, clenched in a trembling knot, unable to sleep, unable to turn my mind to other things, unable to stop myself from remembering again and again and again.
Yeah, that's pretty great. The idea of the fond memories being the ones that really hurt. So Ari showing up. This says a lot about her, right? I mean, so she's got some abilities here. She doesn't show up to where he lives. We don't even know that. I don't believe that we know up to this point that she knows where Kvothe lives.
Is there any indication why? I mean, he's not supposed to be with her tonight, right?
No, but that doesn't mean, just because she hasn't shown up at his place during, the scenes we've read, doesn't mean that she hasn't done this before. It's not, Kvothe didn't react to her showing up as being out of the ordinary. He didn't even comment on it.
True, but, well, I mean, this does lend very, very directly to Ari is his savior. You know what I mean? Like, she is in this scene literally acting as, the confidant, the savior, the person who's with him in a moment that no one has ever been with him in a moment like this, period, since his family died.
Yeah. Well, and also what's interesting about this is like her showing up in this moment. The slow regard of silent things is written between this scene and when he goes and sees her with Elodin. Like, that's the space of time the slow regard of silent things is in between her seeing him here and her seeing him with Elodin. And because that's the gifts that she's going to give him here, and it's chapter 11. In chapter 11, the gifts she gives him are from the slow regard of silent things. And so, like, after this moment, when she's like thinking of the gifts she would give him, that's when she's thinking of, like, I'll give him a place to stay. I'll give him the candle and the kiss and that. But yeah, so that's this time frame. So right about now is where this slow regard of silent things is in place. So for anybody who's never read that book, if you're going back through this one and you kind of wanted to kind of time the slow regard of silent things, that would be a good time to throw that book in.
Interesting. I hadn't made that connection.
But yeah, how did you know that? Oh, because of the gifts.
Because of the gifts.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is interesting. But yeah, no, I thought there was more to it than, I mean, I hear what you're saying, that, it doesn't solidify anything, but it sure does lend to a mystery of Ari and why she's showing up at this point, why he's telling her his deepest secrets that he's never told anybody, especially about his mom.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, I mean, and most definitely, it's the plum bob that gets him to go that far.
Yeah, for sure.
Taste of plum fills his mouth. I miss her, and then he goes into it. His teeth shaking as his head furiously, like a horse fighting its reins. Like he's even trying to prevent this from happening, and then suddenly he realizes all these words are pouring out of him.
Dude, it's a depressing, kind of a heartbreaking fucking little scene where he's like, "I know," she said sadly. "It's bad sometimes, isn't it?" She stroked my hair gently, and it only made me cry harder. I could not remember the last time someone had touched me in a loving way. That's fucking a super depressing line.
That is, about as sad as they get, man.
Yeah. And she, "I know," she said, "you have a stone in your heart. Some days it's so heavy there's nothing to be done. But you don't have to be alone for it. You should have come to me. I understand." My body clenched and suddenly the taste of plum filled my mouth again. "I miss her," I said before I realized I was speaking. Then I bit off before I could say anything else. I clenched my teeth and shook my head furiously like a horse fighting its reins. "You can say it," Ari said gently. I shook again, tasted plum, and suddenly the words were pouring out of me. She said I sang before I spoke. She said when I was just a baby she had the habit of humming when she held me. Nothing like a song, just a descending third, just a soothing sound. Then one day she was walking me around the camp and she heard me echo it back to her, 2 octaves higher, a tiny piping third. She said it was my first song. We sang it back and forth to each other, for years. I choked and clenched my teeth. "You can say it," Ari said softly. "It's okay. It's okay if you say it." "I'm never going to see her again," I choked out. Then I began to cry in earnest. "It's okay," Ari said softly. "I'm here. You're safe." It's a super fucking dark ending to a hilarious chapter.
Yeah, it puts but it puts Ari in that role. Like at least the way when I was reading it, it made me think like Ari's taking the place of his mom, kind of literally.
Yeah, they don't really have that kind of
the way she was holding
a relationship. I think she kind of sees herself in that protector way, the same way he sees himself as Ari's protector.
They're both broken and alone. They both have clearly they both have a checkered, I mean that's putting it lightly, past. Something very traumatic happened to both of them, and they're both out on their own. And it's really interesting that just the idea that these two find each other anyway. And she has no one else. She has her world that is all she has her world that she's created or that she has adapted to. But the only real interaction it seems like she has with a human being on an actual emotional level is with Kvothe. And Kvothe doesn't have any. I mean, that line about he couldn't remember the last time someone had touched him in a loving way. I mean, when you think about it, it's like his mom.
Yeah.
Like that was it. And
years.
That's, dude.
Years.
Yeah, that's intense. Tarbine, all that. Coming out of all of that, dude, that's intense, man. That's super intense. And that's the type of thing that, like, you need that emphasized. You need that pointed out. Because, of course, yes, that has been the case. But you don't really know it until you kind of consider it, until you read it. And then you're like, holy shit, yeah, that'd be intense. How's he holding this shit together?
You make a good point there about Ari. Kvothe hasn't had a loving touch since his mom. Well, how long's it been for Ari? She's as old, right? And how long's she been cracked? I mean, I think she's older anyway, right? She's probably in her 20s.
Yeah, it sounds like probably early 20s.
But either way, she's in the same boat as far as that goes. She does get at least what Kvothe is going through right now as far as having someone care about her.
Yeah, you see it in her fucking book too. I mean, like she has those days where she just breaks down, and then like when she's describing it, it's like you have a stone in your heart. Some days it's so heavy, there's nothing to be done, but you don't have to be alone for it. You should have come to me. I understand, because I mean she does. She does understand.
She's so interesting though, man, because she still has this real ingrained self-confidence that doesn't really fully waver. You know what I mean? Like, she still believes in her abilities. She still believes that she's, of who she is. She has a real, seemingly definite identity or feeling of self, of who she is.
Yeah,
she seems to possess herself.
So is Kvothe. I mean, he's been through some dark ass shit, but he's still pretty fucking badass fucking dude. And pretty confident in most areas of his life. He's not as shattered as Ari, where she can't fucking be around, really be around anyone. But they're both shattered, to an extent, and both of them are still capable and powerful in their own rights.
Yeah. So, but with Kvothe, it's like shuts it all off, spends his time in Tarbine, listens to Skiop, finally deals with it, comes out of it, and then, doesn't really revisit those things.
No.
Every now and then something about his father has been coming up, right? Or my mother taught me how to, be polite and how to act accordingly. But he doesn't delve into those real details about them. It would make sense. I mean, Rothfuss, again, very, very wise to take it to this level with the plum bob, because the plum bob is intense, and it would make him to delve into that thing, because now that he is by himself, he's dealing with those, ghosts, skeletons in the closet.
And if you sped through, real quick on Tim's point, if you sped through the book and Kvothe doesn't do a lot of bleeding his emotions or wearing it on his sleeve. If you sped through, you'd have to be stupid, but you wouldn't know. He doesn't get into how that shit affected him. You can see it. You can see it in the way he acts and the things that he does. And occasionally, like right now.
Well, it's evident with Denna, right? Because the idea that he hasn't had anyone like touch him lovingly in all that period of time, it'd be like, man, you think he'd be driving a lot harder to the hoop there? You know what I'm saying?
Or the opposite direction where.
Well, that's what I mean. So to speak to what Fitz was just talking about, where you do see it is how petrified he is of losing the little bit of, what genuine interactions he has with her. Because if he shot his shot, if he did drive to the hole and he gets, baited, he gets blocked out, it doesn't work out, then that's it. And then if he lost that, then what does he have? And that's why he doesn't. That's why he doesn't take it there, because he's scared to lose that. It's interesting. Really interesting internal struggles here for good old Kvothe.
But that was it for me on that chapter.
It's a good chapter.
It covers my stuff. Yeah, it's phenomenal, man. So good.
Okay, then, chapter 8 is pinned questions. In this chapter, Kvothe sulks for a few days until the day of admissions. He fixes an ice machine for anchors for a little extra money. Then he heads to the university where he finds Elodin. He questions Elodin about his new naming class. There, they are interrupted and derided by Professor Ham and Cheese. And when he leaves, Elodin tricks Kvothe into picking the lock to his room. Once inside, Elodin lights Hemme's clothes on fire. Kvothe continues to beg him to be taught as the room ignites, but Elodin returns to his own room without an answer. Guys?
Yeah, I love the fact that, it starts off where Kvothe is talking about going to the artificery, and he's trying to do the shit, and he can't keep a firm grasp of his alar, but, beyond that, he just like breaks down and starts crying halfway through inscribing the heat funnel. And then, goes back, spends the next 2 days in his room pretending he's sick, and then, with dark thoughts of Ambrose. Like, if Ambrose was going to give the perfect drug to fuck up Kvothe, this is the drug. Shut his, a kid with these dark memories and dark past and a hothead to begin with, like, to give him a drug that's going to fuck with his ability to control his emotions. It's a super dick thing to do to Kvothe.
Yeah, and that's interesting because of what we just talked about from the previous chapter is that, man, he does have a lot of distractions. He has his lute, which he's very good at playing. He has the fishery where he's very good at, he's very good at doing everything that he does, which he's very good at distracting himself. So if he can't maintain his alar and work in the fishery, well, I'll go to the archives and read. But he panicked in the tunnels and freaked out, which is funny that Fitz said he sulked for 2 days. I mean, he's not in a state to be around people.
No.
He can't do what he typically would need to do just to function. And like you said, I mean, it's a fucking really demented thing to do, to give somebody this, which we already knew this, but Ambrose is a real piece of shit.
So I imagine if you gave Sim this fucking drug, it would have like no impact on him at all. Like, I mean, like after the 8 hours wore off, like he'd be perfectly fine, and his sunny fucking happy self, happy go lucky, like, oh, my memories are great. Other than I guess his dad seems like kind of a dick, but
so he'd probably just hit on every single one he sees with absolutely no hesitation.
Yeah, he would just be more aggressively fucking hitting on every girl that walks by.
This
which it sounds like he kind of does that already, so he just amp it up a little bit more.
I was just going to say, this continuation of Kvothe in his mind state that he's in, it reminded me of a couple things. One, there's some drug that I've heard about that people do down in South America where it's like you chew on this
ayahuasca
root. Is that what it is? And it throws you into this. It's almost like a depression. You come out of it better, feeling better, but when it really hits you, you're feeling like all the wrongs that you've ever done to someone, that always stuck with me, like a drug that would make you intensify your guilt for all the things that you've done wrong, and that's kind of what I feel like Kvothe's at. He's at this point where he is cracked. He is, and it may not be a guilt thing, but the horrible things that have happened to him in his life just all of a sudden keep rushing back into his memories or into his bad memories are rushing back into his thoughts. And the other thing it made me think about was just like a deep depression. If you've ever known anybody who struggles with that, that's where Kvothe's at.
Well, it seems like it's even worse in the sense that it's intense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to be depressed and just like you can't come out of it, and you're just kind of trying to get through the day, and you just can't come out of that state, which is a son of a bitch. But it just seems like, man, it's so intense where it's like, dude, he can't even like distract himself with other things. It won't. Yeah, it's not allowed,
Yeah, I thought that these descriptions and what Kvothe is going to is part of Rothfuss's brilliance. Just the things that he's describing, they may mean a lot of different things to different people, but real human emotions and just very interesting.
Yeah, it's great. There's a fragility to what Kvothe is trying to create for himself, and this sort of shows it, right? Like there's ways. I mean, and the whole thing with Ambrose is every time Kvothe in his mind is like, well, there's nothing to get out of this. I'm not gonna fuck with him anymore. Well, Ambrose is gonna fuck with you, right? Out of the blue, basically hits him with this thing, and it's like, well, this is how fragile your state is. This is how fragile your situation is, because now you can't do anything that you would need to do to get by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picture him sitting in his room playing that Boys to Men song.
Jesus,
friends. We've gone
yeah.
To the
end of the road.
Well, now that you pointed out, I have to say I'm picturing Michael Scott just completely continuously playing that song over and over.
It's like, you can buy the whole song. It's like, it's okay. I just want to taste. it.
Just trying to loop it. Yeah. And just trying to keep yourself in a state of like, I'm sad.
Goodbye, my love. Goodbye, my friend.
Oh my God,
man! I never understand that shit. If you're sad, no matter what you listen to, it's gonna spark something. You don't have to like play the sad music. to like just bathe in the sadness.
If I'm like in a sad state and I play sad music, I laugh. A lot of the times I think of that Michael Scott scene, and then it drives me out of that state as I think, like, I laugh at myself being like him. It cracks me up.
You've been the one for me.
Some classic shit.
What I do greatly appreciate about this scene is Anchor's a cool guy. He's he's a cool dude. And I love the iceless chest. I love the practical nature of what we get to really get inside it and see the practical application of sigildry, right?
Yeah.
And what the university offers, what the artificery offers to the world. But it's funny though, and it's a great humanistic trait that they apply. And I guess humanistic isn't the world. It's a true to life. There you go, Fitz. True to life situation where this is a fucking in where Anchor's at, it's like just this hassle fucking piece of shit that doesn't really work. Anywhere else, it's a feat of, modern science.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that you can have basically a refrigerator. But if it's not working, then it's just the box that doesn't work. But I love, it really helped me really, really well to see Kvothe picture literally the 10 stripping that has the sigildry written on it that's basically gotten scratched.
Yeah.
So the sigildry, we've talked about this before, the way that I piece it together, it's the mathematics of these words lined up together in the right form to create what they need to keep a box of things inside cold. Well, because one thing got scratched, the thing doesn't work. So all he has to do is like pin it back properly, etch it in properly. Things should start working pretty soon.
And I like the aspect of it too, where he's like, "Man, this is sloppy. Like the guy should have made the ruin so that it couldn't be damaged. Like that, put it in a different spot." And so, like,
I love that.
He's like, "Man, this guy is fucking amateur hour fucking work over here."
Well, I love what that says about Kvothe. If Kvothe was building a home or building anything, he would do it in the best proper way.
Yeah.
Right? You just get it, that he would innovate whatever it is to the best possible degree. This is why he can build, an arrow catch. This is why he can build, a specialized type of, lantern. And whatever he does, man, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is what old Benny Nobrow pointed out to his parents, Whatever he does, he's going to excel at.
And one other aspect of this that I like, guys, there's a point where Kvothe quickly touches on the thermodynamics of how this thing works. Like, yes, it's the artificery and the sympathy side of it, but there is a thermodynamic point of it as well that's true to life. And I'm sure, I don't know how well versed Rothfuss is and that kind of science, but moving heat, the transfer of heat from one place to another, and the way that people do this stuff inside a refrigeration system is similar to what he's talking about. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and he effectively fixes it, and Anchor is a cool dude who overpays him for what he owes him, which is cool.
Yeah, it hooks him up with a full talent. And
it hooks him up with a nice meal.
I like that aspect too, where, then he's like, I gathered the money into my purse, 4 talents, because you keep getting this as he's collecting money. Like, it's been happening for the entire book so far in book 2, where he's just constantly,
I love it,
like,
man.
3 talents, now 4 talents.
I mean, for me, this makes like a video game sort of element in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like where and we get a consistent list of, well, shit, man, I could buy all these things. I could buy, Denna a harp. I could buy, he just keeps ratcheting up what he could do with the money that he has. This locks down tuition for me for this could lock it down for a year or 2 years. And like he has this running tally in his mind of things that he could do. Obviously, a big part of this is based on the fact that he doesn't have gloves for winter, or he doesn't have the money for these things. He's got like 2 shirts always, and he's always ripping stuff up. So, and he's come from poverty. So it makes sense that he would have that focus. But it's great, man. It just always reminds us that, again, the fragility of his situation always comes right back because, hey, man, you spent all that money on your meat pie, your bologna frickin' pie, so now what?
Cold
Now what are
bologna
you gonna
pie.
Was it worth it?
He's a hustler, man.
100% worth it, though. I like the next part, though, when he's like, Master Elodin, and then see Master Elodin like turned at the sound of his name, then seeing me jogging toward him, he rolled his eyes and turned back to the door.
Dude, every time Elodin comes in, I get like excited. It's always great, man. He's always the way he's written is always just fantastic.
Might I ask you a quick question? Statistically speaking, it's pretty likely. May I ask you a question then? I doubt any power known to man could stop you. He swung the door open and headed inside. And then, I heard a rumor you were gathering a group of students to study naming. I said cautiously. That's not a question, Elodin said as he headed up a long, narrow flight of stairs, which is a callback to the, I'll give you 3 questions. And, and there he's like, no, we're not doing this again. Fucking ask your question. But yeah, it's like, that's not a question. Then, is it true you're teaching such a class? Yes. Were you planning on including me? So, this whole
he
chapter
does
is fucking great.
Well, I was gonna say right in there, he says, "I fought back the urge to snap at him and took a deep breath instead. Is it true you're teaching such a class?" So he gives those hints of like his temper is short. Like that's not that big a deal. He always does get frustrated with Elodin, but I mean, he just says it's not a question.
You get that again with Elodin, but that was nothing compared to when he met my eyes. For a heartbeat, it was simply unsettling. Then it almost felt like the light on the stairway grew dim, or that I had suddenly been thrust deep underwater, and the pressure was keeping me from drawing a full breath. And then, damn you, half-wit, I heard a familiar voice that seemed to be coming from a long way off. If you're going to go catatonic again, have the decency to do it in Havens and save us the trouble of carting your foam-flecked carcass back there. Barring that, get to one side. Elodin looked away from me, and suddenly everything was bright and clear again. I fought to keep from gasping in a lungful of air. Couple things on that. One, again, the eyes. He's just looking into Kvothe, has a major impact on him. Elodin's different. He's a different fucking dude. But then also we get the fact that he went catatonic. That is part of something that happened to him, is that he went into a catatonic state. And, the other aspect of that is him is a super douche.
Yeah.
I mean, you say it in public with a student there.
Yeah.
It's a fucking piece of shit.
Well, then he didn't see Kvothe at first. Once he sees Kvothe, he's like, oh yeah, of course, that's right. Yeah. The quarterwit is here too. Might I recommend a book for your perusal? It's a lovely piece of reading titled Hallways, Their Form and Function. Primer for the mentally deficient. He's a much better combatant for Kvothe than Ambrose. Yeah, Ambrose seems out of his depth, but I think Hemme would have a better time of fucking matching wits with him.
Yeah, that's pretty clever, and he is a scumbag. I mean, every time we see him, he's just a fucking asshole. He's never in a positive light at all.
Oh man, what but you're still banned from the archives, aren't you? Should I arrange to present the salient information in a form more suited to your kind? Perhaps a mummer's play or some manner of puppet show? My fucking dick.
Yeah.
He's fucking great, man. Though.
Well, yeah, he's a scumbag. And, Rothfuss does a great job of always making him a scumbag.
I hadn't thought about that aspect of him, how he could actually be more of a quality foe for Kvothe because he's actually smart. When earlier we were talking about how Ambrose's pride got in his way and he couldn't complete his task of getting Kvothe, maybe screwed out of admissions because of his own self. But Hemme's a little different, even though his own pride screws him up a little bit later too, but or I guess his anger. But but he is a lot wiser, and he does bring a lot more to the table as far as insults.
Yeah. Yeah, he's I mean he's got the great insult with that girl, like, he's like, "Would you cross your legs?" He's like, "Well, now that the gates of hell are closed."
He's got the insults, but he's a hothead, man.
Yeah.
Like he's such a hothead. Like he can't control his shit at all.
Yeah,
And
he's
never
very
like on
emotional.
the horns he's never appropriate.
No. Yeah, he's very emotional. But yeah, I like
he's a real
too the
scumbag.
aspect where or Elodin is like, why don't you fucking hitch your wagon to Dal or Kilvin? They seem to like you. Like, where he's like, it's like, get the fuck away from me. Like, go hang on to someone that likes you. And he's like, yeah, you're the one who sponsored my promotion to Relar. He turned and began climbing the stairs again. Then you should value my sage advice, shouldn't you? But if you're teaching other students, why not me? Because you're too eager to be properly patient, he said flippantly. You're too proud to listen properly, and you're too clever by half. That's the worst of it. Some masters prefer clever students, I muttered as we emerged into a wide hallway. Yes, Elodin said. Dal and Kilvin and Arwell like clever students. Go study with one of them. Both of our lives will be considerably easier because of it. Obviously, I think part of Elodin's hesitancy is, what happened with him and, his student. I think he understands that, what he would be teaching Kvothe is extremely dangerous, and Kvothe does not appreciate that at all, and he's reckless.
Well,
he's not giving it the proper amount of respect.
The critiques that Elodin gave Kvothe just now were the same ones that Abinthy gave him after he had the wind sucked out of his lungs. He said the first one I like the best. It's he says you're too eager to be properly patient, and how many of us guys can relate to that looking back as older guys, that how we were when we were in high school, like, damn, we really thought we were the shit, and we were pushing so hard we didn't realize how much we needed to learn. Do you guys? Dan, I know that
No,
you were
I don't
there.
feel that. I mean, I know, like, when I look back, I'm like, yeah, basically the same. Fucking crushing it then, crushing it now. Yeah, no different.
Oh, Jesus.
And too
Humble,
clever,
though.
too
Very
clever
humble.
for your own good type of thing. What was
No,
the second
I was not
thing
too clever for my own good. I was the proper amount
Too
of clever.
proud. Well, Dan just clearly exuded the center one, or the second one, which is you're too proud to listen properly, as Dan's doing that now.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What'd you say?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, Elodin, what did he say last time? He's like, your ears are too green. You're not tall enough. You're too short. It's like everything.
Got the wrong amount
everything
of
about
fingers.
you is the reason.
Come back when you have more
Yeah,
fingers.
it's like, just pick one. Pick a reason. That's the one. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to teach you. And which is great, and he's right in regards to, I mean, dude, the first time he gave him instruction, jump off the roof, fucking does it. What the fuck? That's a very sure sign you're not ready for this shit, dude.
Can't even.
You're not exercising good
Elodin's
judgment.
like, dude,
man.
I can't even crack a joke around you. I can't even be funny. It's like, I fucking tell you a joke and you think it's a fucking test and fucking go jump out a window.
Well, I love he utilizes him as a tool. He's like, all right, then. Why don't you do me this solid without actually asking him?
It's so perfect too, because he gets Kvothe to open the door, and so he's able to go and set Hemme's clothes on fire in front of Kvothe. He's able to just do this openly in front of Kvothe, doesn't have to hide what he's doing. And Kvothe can't do shit about it because Elodin manipulated him into being his accomplice. So Kvothe can't even tell on Elodin, because then he's going to be, fingered in the crime. So Elodin, just completely manipulates the shit out of him in a hilarious way.
I love the whole. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, there's points to this where their relationship becomes more endeared, and this is one of them that they're, even though you think that Elodin is shunning Kvothe, or at least trying to get away from, he says it himself. What makes you think that I'm not teaching you? Like maybe there is something that there to it that Elodin's actually bringing Kvothe along.
Yeah, he uses him.
I love the fact. Well, I love the fact that this entire the entire scene illustrates you're not thinking what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
You're like asking me questions while I'm doing all of these things here. This doesn't seem very rational. Why would I take all my clothes and burn them?
Yeah.
Like, why would I do that?
Coming in.
You're not actually...
Yeah, like I'm coming in a room, grabbing
door?
clothes, throwing them in a fire, drinking the liquor. It's like, yeah, the rational person, and like I love the way it's broken down where he's like, why don't you want to teach me? That's the wrong question. And then like, why are you burning your clothes? Nope. Not even close to the right question. Like, so fucking great. Oh, God, I said. Whose room are these? Elodin gave a satisfied nod. Very good. I would have also accepted, why don't you have a key for this room? Or what are we doing in here? He looked down at me, his eyes serious. Doors are locked for a reason. People who don't have keys are supposed to stay out for a reason.
So that's the clearest as he's going to give you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because Elodin is basically, if you're going to say this is him teaching, and he's leading him through example. He's making him do all these things. That lesson that Dan was talking about earlier, where they go to the archives and do this extraordinary search for these books, and then in the end, he's like, "Yeah, I don't give a fuck about the books." Like the point was, now you know how the archives works, but they don't get it. Kvothe never gets it because he's constantly needing the exact instruction. Well, here it is for you. Doors are locked for a reason. People who don't have keys are supposed to stay out for a reason. You get it now? You understand what the fuck's going on?
Well,
and it's like he still doesn't understand until he's left in the hallway by himself. Like, oh shit, what do I do now?
Well, he explained. This is one of the few times where Elodin does the show me wax on, because he's like, you're clever. That's your weakness. You assume you know what you're getting into, but you don't. You think you can trust me to teach you. You think I will keep you safe, but that is the worst sort of foolishness. It's that aspect that Elodin uses, the fact that he knows he's clever. He uses it, where Kvothe, he's like, okay, get in the door. Show me you can do this. And Kvothe like, oh, look how clever I am. Da-da-da. Boom, you're in. And then he doesn't understand the trouble that Elodin just got him into by tricking him into opening the door. And it's so great too. But then you also get the piece of Elodin. Like, not only is Elodin, teaching him a lesson that he is too brash. He's not thinking. He wants it too bad. He just wants it way too fucking bad.
Well, and you can't name when that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? That's one of the first lessons you got to learn. And it takes him forever to really start to really grasp that, and the Adem time really, really helps. I love, just in regards to Elodin as a character, I love, why are you burning all of Hemme's clothes? Elodin looked at me as if I was an idiot. Because I hate him. The man is an absolute tit. Nobody talks to me like that.
Yeah.
He just insulted him right there in public. Like, all right, well, burn up all your shit and smoke out your room. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, yeah, nobody talks to me like that.
Even
Fuck
like
you.
right before that, whose rooms are these? I repeated numbly. He showed me all his teeth in a sudden grin. Master Hemme's. He's like, it's like, I taught you a lesson, but it's a fun lesson.
Yeah, this chapter is satisfying in so many ways, or at least in those ways where you get that fun aspect of it, where Kvothe's learning these lessons from Elodin, who's awesome. But then when you realize that it's Hemme's room, also the guy that we all fucking hate is getting all his shit torched. So that makes it even that much better.
Yeah, it's again, Hemme always loses. Every time we read Hemme in a scene, he always ends up losing, and it's fucking great. It's delicious that he always gets it. So he's going to insult both these people. He doesn't realize his room's about to be demolished, and his clothes are about to be burned.
Get a lot.
It's fantastic.
It's such a great way to fucking teach a lesson and get your revenge all in one motion. Such a phenomenal fucking. I mean, like, talk about, like, call me a fucking half-wit. I'll fucking set all your goddamn clothes on fire. How about that? How about that, man?
I like, well, it kind of bothered me when I read it. It still bothers me when I read it, but it makes sense. Kvothe, has the, his temper's short. It feels like from the plum bob. It doesn't say that he gets the taste of plum, but he does say his temper flared when Elodin's sort of fucking with him, because Kvothe's trying to admit, all right, there have been times when my actions have been, Elodin says, stupid beyond all mortal kin. My temper flared, burning away my brief attempt at humility. Well, thank God I'm the only one here that's ever made a bad decision in my life. That fucking bothers me to read that. And then goes as far as, I've heard stories about you too, They say you've toughed things up pretty well yourself back when you were a student here.
Yeah, he doubles down like an idiot. I thought that was a mistake, but I did think that it did make me think that Kvothe may have taken this not on purpose, but because he's having to watch his tongue now because of the plum bob, that we do see that he's, I think, a little more mindful of what he says.
No, like,
maybe not right here,
not in this situation. Like, he's after it, he blurts shit out and then realizes he might have gone too far, but he has no control right now.
No, typically he's very measured. Here, absolutely not. This was he knows he went too far, and then he even worries, my temper faded as quickly as flared up, and I worried I'd gone too far. But Elodin's like, what makes you think I'm not teaching you? Aside from the fact that you refuse to learn, and then he's just like, I'd get out of here if I was you. People are going to want to know who's responsible for all this. And everyone knows you and him don't get along very well. Plus, I live here. What's your excuse?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, yeah.
Won't look good if you show up reeking of smoke. I live here. What's your excuse? It's so great.
It's fucking great. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty.
And not only that, like, when he's like, it won't look good if you show up reeking of smoke. I live here. Elodin said, pulling a key from his pocket and unlocking a door at the far end of the hallway. Unlocks his door, like, showing, like, yeah, see, if you can get it, if it's your room, you have a key. Like, you wouldn't need a fucking student to unlock the door for you because it's your fucking room.
It's so great though too, because Elodin is so unpredictable. I was gonna say erratic, but he's unpredictable around Kvothe. He's done so many odd things, and Kvothe's heard odd things about him that, and he constantly, in Kvothe's mind, he likes to think that he's being tested to then prove that he's worthy of being taught. This happens so many times with the two of them. So he's like, okay, well, I'll jump off the roof. Or, I'll just break into this room and impress you. Look at me. Look how, pick the lock. What does he say when he walks in? Elodin says, clever. That's the problem. And he's saying, he just told you you're too clever. And then that's exactly what he says. But, I love the way Rothfuss utilizes Elodin. What he's created with this character is just so great, man.
Yeah, he's
interesting.
one of my favorite characters I've ever read.
Yeah.
But that's it on Chapter 8.
Okay, then Chapter 9's called A Civil Tongue. In this chapter, Kvothe goes on the horns for admissions. He does a pretty good job until Hemme calls him a rabble bastard, and Kvothe responds angrily, wishing Hemme was burned alive. The Chancellor lets it go, though, and questions Kvothe about the etymology of the word ravel, then confers with the rest of the masters. Guys?
Yeah, I mentioned in a previous episode how, like, after he had flipped out with that girl where he's like, this is a fucking waste of my time. Then he, like, sees the masters and he sees how haggard they look and he's like, well, it's no walk in the park for them either. Obviously this isn't fun for them.
Yeah, I like that as well, where it's like, it's also kind of goes back to like, why the fuck are we doing this? Where do we get to the point where this is the best system? Because we talked about this before, where it's like, this isn't good for the learning. This isn't good for like the progression of the student. But this is the system we have. I mean, it's just like, this is what happens with bureaucracy when it gets involved. And in their situation, it's not as direct as that, but they've evolved to this system. It's like, well, this is the way it is. So they just keep doing it. And it just, yeah, it sucks for the chancellors. It sucks for the masters as well as it sucks for the students.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention, I really like, every time he's on the horns, I see it the way it's described here, where it's like, it's not necessarily there's a spotlight on him, but kinda, and it kind of feels like that, the slightly brighter light, but then between the two horns, and then the rest of the room is just pitch black. So you just see the masters, and I always envision these scenes as being like really cinematic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think
as they look down at him,
cool to do, and then I like the way, I like the different interactions with the masters in this. They're all pretty good. Like, you get him, like, Master Arwill asking him his question. And he's like, well, people in my rank, I don't make diagnosis in the Medica. I'd fetch one of the Alpha to do it. It's like, all right, yeah, good answer. But let's, hypothetically, how would you do this? It's like, is the patient a student? And what does that have to do with the price of butter? If they work in the fishery, it might be smelter's flu. But I like that aspect of it, is because, like, in his own mind, he's like, the only reason I knew this is because I gave myself fucking smelter's flu just, a few weeks ago.
It reminded me, the first thing you mentioned reminded me of Ben, where he's like, yeah, well, I don't have a problem with that bird, so I'm not going to bring it down.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's pretend you did. Yeah, and then he has to take him through it. Especially works with Arwill, because Arwill, we've seen him do that. He tests his students to be professional and to do the right thing, and so he does that on the spot, and then he does it here, where he tries to catch him up. But Kvothe is ready for that, because he knows it's really interesting, especially when Hemme does what he does, where you see that Kvothe is in a state of, like, poised for the trick question. Because a lot of the questions they get are trick questions. So he's, like, ready for wherever it's going to take him. Actually, I guess it's Brandur, because he asks him, like, some really stupid, like, well, it's not stupid, it's absurd, the question that he ends up asking him. But
yeah, it's a weird one. I would be curious why Brandur asked him that question, like, if it was in the book, or if he was, like, intentionally trying to spike his wheel, or if there's something deeper there. But it's impossible to know just off these two books. But yeah, he's, like, asked him a question where Kvothe's like, dude, I don't fucking know. There's no how am I supposed to answer this without this tool in front of me?
It almost makes me feel like it'll come up again, but at the same time, it's Brandur. It's like, it's not like with Elodin. When Elodin brings something up, which will come up again, like he's kind of pulling that perspective forward and teaching Kvothe to be on his, his toes in terms of the relevance of virtually everything.
Yeah.
Brandur's shallow, and so I don't know. It kind of hints at that, but then I guess it also hints at, like, what the fuck? What is he doing? What's the point of this?
Yeah, I mean, there could be something deeper there, but it's just with the information we got, we don't have enough information. But it's an interesting one that it at least lends the possibility that there's something more there that we're just not.
If nothing else. Sorry, I was just going to say, if nothing else, it does kind of remind us. I like the little things like this that does remind us. Just kind of puts it in our brain, like, remember, this is a big world, and there's all these other places, and he's about to leave fairly soon. So this kind of just hints that in, because we just got the hint, like, I wonder what my father would think, me feeling at home at Anchors. Like, and, he's getting that urge in his blood to, like, travel, and then sort of hinting at it that there's this big land, and maybe it's ill or some other place. So it kind of does that as well.
One thing I do like, even though Kvothe doesn't know the answer to this, he breaks down these questions every time. We're in Kvothe's head on the horns here, and each question we get, it's almost like a what was that movie, Slumdog Millionaire? it's not the same thing, but there's a lot of different things, especially in this chapter, this time on the horns, where Kvothe is answering these questions, and he kind of breaks down each question, why he knows the answer to it, or how he gets to the answer. He does it a few times previously, but even on this one that he doesn't know the answer to, you know, there are pieces to it that he can recognize and logically kind of cipher through it. I enjoy that.
I'm curious, like if this was a movie or a TV show, how long the beat would be as he's considering, you know?
Yeah, a lot.
Like,
a lot of the, because with any book, one of the things with any book is like it almost requires there to be like a voiceover, you know, a narrator for the movie to actually do what the book does. And so if you don't, if you take out the narrator, if you don't have someone talking to you, then, you know, how do you portray the thoughts?
Well,
that's always
in
the
this
trouble
sense,
with books.
In this sense, it would either be that voiceover, that off-screen voiceover, interpreting his thoughts or illustrating his thoughts, or literally show map land, like his mind's eye, like scanning an area. You know what I mean? And then just at the end of it, it just all goes away, and he's like, "Fuck, I don't know, bro." Like
I was kind of visualizing either like a Wonder Years scenario where the narrator is actually saying those things, or Kvothe, the opposite would be like just Kvothe looking up for a few minutes, just going, and then looking over the other way and going, I don't know.
Just camp it up. Huh?
Yeah, it doesn't work without a narrator.
Well, and then it's great when we get into Elodin, because Elodin gives him a wicked knowing grin, and then he just like suddenly Kvothe struck with the fear that he might be like, "So what did we do in Hemme's room?
Yeah.
What were you doing in there? Like I saw you coming out. What were you doing? I didn't really understand." Like it just like plants in his head, so we get a little anxious tension that gets just thrown in the second that starts. And then Elodin asks him like what would seem a completely trivial question.
Well, this is what I've brought this up a number of times, where he asks, you have 3 spades in your hand, and there have been 5 spades played. He steepled his fingers and looked at me seriously. How many spades is that? 8 spades, I said. That's the exact question that Manette asked him in the previous chapter when they were playing cards, and Manette got mad at him because he fucked up. And so that's word for word the exact fucking question that Manette asked him.
Hey, you know what?
It's very interesting because it's a small moment. It's a small moment of something that happens in the previous chapters. Where the fuck would Elodin pick this up? It's not relevant to the overarching story, you know. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
like it's so minute. If it was something that was like, and that's very smart too, with the spitting over the bridge and stuff like that. They're small things. They're not big things. If it was big things, it'd be more like, whoa, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, especially
it
like
kind of draws you in.
If you're going through it the first time, you might not even notice it. It's just, if you're paying attention, then all of a sudden, you know, it stands out that he's like the 7 words after he'd already said the 7 words to Denna.
Yeah, that
this one
stands
spit
out,
for luck. Like these moments where it like gives you the impression that, you know, the only outside of it just being coincidence, the only explanations you could think of would be like he's either spying on him, or he's got like a power like Celotos. Like when Celotos looks at Lanre as Haliax, and he sees that Lanre and Haliax tried to kill himself and shit. He sees what this guy's gone through, so he sees what had happened to him in the past. Again,
but it's a minute thing. You know, it's not like what happened to your parents or something. It's you know, it's like you fucked up playing cards.
Yeah, but it could be that Elodin's like, you know, kind of fucking testing him, just seeing like, is he gonna pick up on it? Is he gonna notice? And he's just kind of throwing it out there as a feeler.
I mean, when we get that feeling, and we just talked about it on the stairs, where he looks into you.
Yeah,
it's like very uncomfortable. Like he's getting inside your body, your mental state.
It happens right here in this very scene. Like, because Arwill's sighed, Kelvin slouched, Hemme and Brandor went so far as to roll their eyes at each other. Altogether, they gave the impression of long-suffering exasperation. Elodin scowled at them. "What?" he demanded, his voice going hard around the edges. "You want me to take this song and dance more seriously? You want me to ask him questions only a neighbor can answer? Fine," Elodin said, turning back to me. His eyes were dark and his voice had a strange resonance to it. It wasn't loud, but when he spoke, it seemed to fill the entire hall, left no space for any other sound. "Where does the moon go?" Elodin said grimly, "when it is no longer in our sky?" The room seemed unnaturally quiet when he stopped speaking, as if his voice had left a hole in the world. I waited to see if there was more to the question. "I haven't the slightest," I admitted. After Elodin's voice, my own seemed rather thin and insubstantial. Elodin shrugged, then gestured graciously across the table. "Master Sympathist?"
A couple things. I like that he says he calls it a song and dance.
Yeah.
Like he also doesn't take this shit serious. That's why he's always bored. He's like, "What the fuck are we doing here?"
Yeah.
It's like kind of below him, 'Cause it's a waste of time. It's especially a waste of his time. Like what? Well, and then one of the early parts we talked about where it kind of seemed like a lot of times he's maybe not even there for admissions. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he definitely he thinks this whole thing is as much as Kvothe thinks the process is stupid, Elodin doubly so.
Yeah.
On its face alone, though, the question is interesting. The second question, where's the moon go? If he was a namer, why would he know that?
What do you mean? Why wouldn't he know?
Well, I don't think it's not necessarily he knows. I think he poses questions to see what the response would be. Maybe it's a question he has.
Well, like you would think, like like if you're a namer and you've been, to be able to become a namer, you got to kind of go through some shit. It seems like to be an actual, not just like, like Elxadal knows the name of fire, but to be an actual namer, it seems like you got to kind of fucking experience some shit. And so, like, if you've never, you've never experienced the Fae or any of these, like, the crazier aspects of the world, you don't know the real world. You don't even know the world you live in. You only have this superficial knowledge of the world. Then you're probably not going to be a namer. Whereas Elodin, because when Elodin sees Kvothe in his Fae cloak, he's got the cloak from Flurry, and he's like, "Hey, look, you're in Shaden." He's like, "I'm surprised you know." So I wouldn't be much a fucking namer if I couldn't spot a fucking Fae cloak right in front of me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know what the correlation is between being a namer and knowing the Fae or the moon.
Like, how could you be a namer if you don't understand the world you live in?
Well, we do know that there is a significance to the moon with the Fae. We know that with pretty solid certainty. I think
what's
he's trying to get him to reference. What's that?
So what's it have to do with naming? That's my question. Like, I take the question for...
That's what I'm saying is, like, if you don't understand the world, you don't understand that there is a Fae, that the moon travels between the two worlds, that there is a split in the world, that there is vastly, on this plane that you exist on, there's an entirely another plane where there's these crazy ass Fae creatures with Flurian and all this shit. If you don't even understand the world you live in and how rich and complex it is and how dangerous aspects of it are, like, you're probably not going to be a namer. You're probably you have to experience the world, and you got to be red pilled basically. You have to, the scales have to fall from your eyes. You have to fucking see the world for what it is, and it's a dangerous and wild place. And if you don't even understand where the moon goes, you don't even understand that there is a Fae world, you're probably not a namer. And so I think that's what he's getting at, is like Like, look, like, what do you want? You want me to ask questions that, maybe fucking 10 people in the world, like, actually know? Because there's nobody like me. There's no namers.
I think a big part of what, at least I feel like when Elodin asks a question like that, is he's trying to encourage Kvothe to think outside the box. That's really putting it mildly, but that's kind of what it is to me, is like he's always trying to get him to think.
I didn't get that
Again,
impression with that
box,
question.
Otherworldly.
Because there is no thinking outside the box. The only way you would know that answer is if you had been to the Fae and you knew that the moon goes into another world. If you don't know the Fae exists, you can't answer that question. There's no thinking outside the box. You have to know that the Fae exists. I think he was just making a point to the other masters that if he's taking it seriously and he's asking questions only a namer would know, then it's a waste of time, because there's nobody else that's going to know this answer. If they don't even know the Fae exists, how are they going to even know where the moon goes?
So the only reason why I thought that this question might lead or allude to a little deeper is because of the stuff that you've talked about, Dan, like Shapers versus the Namers kind of thing, where the Shapers made the Fae, stole the moon, put it there, took half of it or whatever it is. And so I thought maybe what Elodin's actually referring to is, if he's a Namer, then he's on the side of the Namers, or he's originally a Namer, actually a Namer, not just someone who can name a few things.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
and knows
I
this
understand
innately.
I understand what you guys are saying. I'm just saying, though, like, the only way you would know where the moon goes is if you know the Fae exists. If you don't know the Fae exists, it's impossible to know where the moon goes. So, like, I don't think there's anything deeper there other than he's asking a question that the only people in this world who would know where the moon goes are the people you have to know the Fae exists for real. You have to know the story of Ayak stealing the moon. Like, you have to know
from the
deeper history of the world, and almost nobody in this world knows this deeper history. Clearly.
I think he's trying to. I think he's also just referencing Pink Floyd.
Yeah,
Elodin's a fan of Pink Floyd. That's what he's going with here.
Yeah,
the lunatic on the hill. That's what he's going for.
The
madcap laughs.
It leads to it leads into the great one, though, is Elxadal comes in. First off, like when it describes Elxadal, I always think of the evil wizard dude from Aladdin, Jafar or whatever his name
Jafar.
is. Yeah. That's always how I picture Elxadal when they describe him that way.
He's got Gilbert Godfrey on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Just hanging out.
But yeah, then then he asks him, once an ounce of water is boiling, how much heat will it take to boil it completely away? I dragged up what I could remember from the evaporation tables I'd worked with in the fishery. 180 thongs, I said, with more assurance than I actually felt. So 180 thongs, that's not as much. Like, Kilvin pulled 850 million thongs, which is super hot. But this,
super hot. Well, that's a fire encompassing an entire room. He's just trying to boil water.
So like, if to make it evaporate completely, to boil it completely away, you only you only need like an extra 180 thongs to toss on top of that shit.
So you just ball that up like a ball of twine, just a ball of thongs.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking that many,
put it in more tangible terms.
You don't really have to do much to it. It's gonna fucking be hot as shit just tossing it on there.
Or do you have I was thinking a string straight up in the air, like a flag of thongs? 180. It's a long flag.
Nah, you want it to cover.
I was
it,
thinking
though.
more
want them, piled on top of each other.
So I was thinking more like like a blanket of thongs. So why would that make something boil? I mean, it only can contain the heat that it's got there.
Well, think about it. Like, if you have one blanket on you, yeah, you can be comfortable. You throw 2 blankets on you, you get a little warmer. Throw 850 thongs on top of you, it gets a little bit warmer still.
I think we got to think about it in a little more of a different way, like of thongs being hot, like on hot girls. And so,
bear in mind,
it's
the pubic hairs that are entwined.
Yeah, the friction. You gotta account for the
heat.
friction.
Oh,
that
friction. Maybe the friction of it. Maybe the pubes creating a static electricity.
Well, one thing that we did kind of skip over that I actually find kind of interesting was the distance of insurmountable decay for iron. The specifics I don't find it tremendously interesting, but I like that in Kvothe's mind he's like 5.5 miles, giving the textbook answer, despite the fact that I had some quibbles with the term insurmountable. And then he kind of gives his reasoning. I just like the fact that these aren't 100% locked in rules, right? There's not exact parameters to these things. It's still debatable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's still got to play by their rules. It's
interesting.
Like,
it's theoretical sciences, right? So like the idea of how, physics or chemistry actually applies, but then there's still room for, imbalance or, stretching the reality of things, I guess. I don't know.
Anomalies,
I like that type
if you'll
of thing.
allow it.
What's that?
Anomalies.
I'll allow it.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, and then
I like Mandrag. I like Mandrag here. I like the fact that I'll pass. So that speaks to what we were talking about, where, in Kvothe, and this has been sort of reiterated, where it's like, he doesn't take Mandrag's class. Mandrag doesn't know much about Kvothe in terms of what he's capable of in class. So what point would there be in him asking a question? So he passes. I like that.
Yeah.
That speaks highly, at least in my book, towards Mandrag, who apparently is not liked by the people that made the Kindle version, but I like him. So
I think Rothfuss might not like him. He has one of the few opportunities where Mandrag gets a chance to speak, and he's just like, pass.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he doesn't like him. He created this character, and he doesn't give reasons to not like him.
Well, he knows him. He's been inside fucking Mandrag's head, and he's like, man, this dude, I fucking hate this dude. I hate his thoughts. He's such a fucking loser.
He just had burn up skin. He's got mottled skin, but it doesn't really get to speak much.
The truth is, Mandrag, in Rothfuss's head, Mandrag started to ask his questioning, and Rothfuss goes, boring. Next guy.
I love Elodin, though. He's good with questions about spades.
Yeah. Yeah. Then Lauren, fucking, what are the rules to the archives? Fucking all that work Kvothe did to prepare for his question, and he just gives him that. And what are the rules? Yeah. And then Kelvin lobs a couple easy ones at him. And then fucking dickhead Master Hemme. Did you set fire to my rooms, you little rabble bastard?
Real quick, before we go into that, I was a bit confused by a phrase. Galvanic throughput of copper, the great bear-like master rumbled through his beard. So he answers the question, whatever. I gave it to 5 places. I'd had to use it while making calculations for the deck lamps. Conductive coefficient of gallium, blah, blah. I gave it to 5 places. I don't understand that phrase. I couldn't.
I just think like percentages, like move it over 2 spaces, that kind of thing.
Oh. It bothered me. I couldn't reconcile.
Took it like a mathematical calculation type of thing.
All right. Yeah, it kind of, yeah. So I had to mention it because it bothered me.
But yeah, then, did you set
Hemme's
fire to my rooms, you little rabble bastard? Kvothe.
That comes out of nowhere, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very professional sort of, the whole process, and then that. You're just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and then Kvothe I didn't set fire to your rooms, I said honestly, but I wish I had, and I wish you'd been in there when it started, sleeping soundly. Hem's expression turned from scowling to astonish. Relark of oath, the Chancellor snapped. You will keep a civil tongue in your head, or I'll bring you up on charges of conduct unbecoming myself. The taste of plum disappeared as quickly as it came, leaving me feeling slightly dizzy and sweating with fear and embarrassment. My apologies, Chancellor, I said quickly, looking down at my feet. I spoke in anger. Rabble is a term my people find particularly offensive. Its use makes light of the systematic slaughter of thousands of Rue, which is, a nice little tidbit of the history that the Rue were hunted down and murdered in a systematic and devastating fashion.
Seemed like they were, from the description, that they were just hunted down and slaughtered just for being travelers or nomads.
Being the Rue.
Just for being,
just for being
they
the
are.
Rue. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way this plays out because it works to Kvothe's benefit, where the Chancellor's like, oh, interesting. I like language. I'm interested in that etymology. It didn't occur to me. And then Hem's like, well, hold on. I still have my question. I'm not finished. No, you're finished. I love where they just come down on him. You're as bad as the boy, Jason, whatever the fuck his name is. And with less excuse, you've shown you can't conduct yourself in a professional manner. So stint thy clep and consider yourself lucky I don't call it for an official censure. I love that Hemme always loses, man. He always fucking loses. He always comes out looking like a jackass in front of his peers. It's great, man.
In front of everybody.
Yeah, in front of everyone. And everybody, and that's the interesting thing here as well. It does seem like Kvothe gets an advantage by the fact that Hemme is always a piece of shit. They know he's always a piece of shit. And he can't resist. Right? He could have asked some questions, then been like, third question, did you burn my fucking room, bro?
Yeah.
But he can't. He just immediately is like, hey, you little rabble bastard. He has to insult him. And the thing that's the fucking best part about it is like, he had to go as far as saying you rabble bastard, and that's Kvothe's out.
Yeah.
Was the insult, the racial whatever insult. That's what got him out of it.
Had to play the race card.
And the truth is, Kvothe did let him into his room. Like Hem's,
Hemme
suspicions are founded.
Largely right.
That's what makes it better. That's what it makes it all the better. Fuck him, old piece of shit.
Yeah, he's such a douchebag. And it's like, yeah, you know why your rooms got set on fire? Because you're a dick and nobody likes you. You fucking asshole.
Because you're an asshole. That's one of the funny things where it's like these people that are big pieces of shit to everybody, and they're like, I don't understand why things go this way for me, and everybody's against me. It's because you're a scumbag.
My personality keeps blowing up in my face. It makes no sense.
You ever ask people that? Like every now and then it'll be like, I have a feeling this happens to you often. There's a common correlation that's going on in every one of these circumstances. You're involved.
Yeah.
It's not that everybody else sucks.
Yeah.
You suck. You spread your shittiness everywhere you go, and everybody else has to work with you, and they hate it because you suck.
Him needs to hear that expression where, like, if everyone you meet is an asshole, it's like if everyone you run into is an asshole, it's like, hey, if you run into one asshole a day, okay, well, you ran into one asshole. You run into assholes all day long, you're the asshole.
Yeah, he needs to learn that lesson. But I don't think he will.
No,
I think
he's fully. He clearly is like, I don't get it. I don't get why this keeps happening to me.
He fully embraces being just a giant piece
Why
of
do
shit.
my rooms keep going up in flames?
Yeah. Bad shit always happens to me, and I do nothing. I do nothing to deserve it.
Meanwhile, Elodin's over in the corner, holds a couple fingers up and goes,
Yeah, that's great. It'd be great to be Elodin in this scene.
Kvothe looks at Elodin and he just like brushes his shoulders off.
Yeah, that's good. It's good stuff. I love it.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
Jan, tell us some of the stuff we got coming up.
Next one will be a great one because he's going to run into Denna and we get reintroduced to Devi again. It's a awesome fucking interaction with Devi. And then we get the great scene where Elodin and Ari and Kvothe interact with each other. And Kvothe gets let back into the archives, and Kvothe is going to start his classes with Elodin to learn how to name. So it's going to be a really good one. Next one, there's some really good chapters.
Yeah, for me, one of the big highlights of book 2 is there is a lot of Elodin. He's so great, such a great character.
A lot more Elodin and a lot more Devi. It's
and then the world opens up, and Kvothe has to learn all these new things. But it was one of the things that we were talking about. Is like we're close to 100 pages in, but I mean, it's like there's so many great chapters just in every group of these chapters, and it's a long book. It's much longer than the first book, but it's just packed with so much, and it's constantly moving forward, and it's so interesting, man. It's great.
Yeah, the second book is so enthralling. Like I always come back to, me plowing through the books, man. The as exciting as the first book was, the second book is so encapsulating. It just awesome.
Yeah, I like it better than the first, but the popular opinion is the first is the better of the two books. But I just like the second book. I love the first book. I think it's amazing, but I like the second book better because it's so jam packed with so many great scenes.
That's what I meant. Captivating.
Well, I think a big part of what that ties to in my mind is you're introduced to this world in book 1, and you're not going to get that in book 2. It's just not going to happen because it's building off of. But what it builds off of and how it builds to what we end up with. When I was reading through book 2 this last time, it's definitely, in my mind, it's better than the 2, which is a huge compliment to what Rothfuss was able to do. Yeah, because book 1 is tremendous. But the fact that you can come back with the next book and make it even better for, at least in my opinion and others, it's fucking great, man. So, book 3, hopefully, takes a similar route.
Yeah, stays on that same pitch.
As long as he goes the boy band route and has the Jack in the Box coupons and everything else, he ain't going to go wrong, dude. He'll be good.
I'm going to be pretty disappointed if there's no Mario references.
Well, they're already there. There's no getting around it.
When he's
it's already embedded.
When he's like jumping on mushrooms, snagging Jack in the Box bags out of the air, and fucking saving, Ari and from the fucking King Koopa, and you got fucking Denna turn into a werewolf, and Abinthy turn into a vampire. Like, I mean, like, what more could you want out of a book? Like, that's just exciting all the way through.
What I think you're leaving behind is the 3 up there on stage, Will and Sim and Kvothe, doing choreographed dances to their pop songs. Oh man, that's gonna be so good.
And Elodin, not Elodin, Grey Dalcenti standing in the back of the room, fucking busting a fucking cig, and like you don't see his face, like he's just all in dark, but then you see the light from the cigarette light up his face. So he fucking hits that cigarette, and he's like, "That's my boy Tonto. That's my boy."
You know what? I just got a visual of Old Gray's. Old Gray, he manages that boy band.
No, I think it's Ari.
Ari manages the boy band. Like,
he's
think of Grey Dalcenti. He's like the dad of the top performer. Like, he's like fucking Michael Jackson's dad like had to fucking
Oh.
really like put his kid through some shit to become a great performer, but then he hands
I
him
get it.
off
He beats him into
to
submission.
Ari to be
I
like
get
the one that fucking crosses him across the finish line. But he knows what he did to get him there.
He puts him through the hard knocks. I get it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why they're so profound.
Yeah.
It's really important. You want to model your characters after, I think it's Joe Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a real good guy, that guy.
Yeah.
He's
As everybody
Hey.
says about him. Like, hey, Joe Jackson. One thing you can say about Michael Jackson is like, great dad.
Say what you want about Michael Jackson, all the different, but as far as his father goes, top
Great
notch.
dad.
Tippy top,
Great dad.
clearly had a
Tippy-top.
clearly had a great relationship with his father. No doubt.
What's up with
No doubt there.
The
fucking Joe
results don't lie.
Jacksons, man? Fucking,
Shoeless
it's a
Joe
rough
Jackson?
name, man. It's a rough name.
Some-
You don't want to name your kid fucking Joe Jackson after this.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
not
apparently
only
not.
not
The
only are
results don't lie, guys.
you like setting your kid up for like, man, you have a lot to aim for, but not only is it like it's a long way up, but it's a long way fucking down too.
And you're also
No
starting
shoes?
from, Joe Jackson, huh? Okay, well, I'm going to watch you.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch, I'm gonna definitely watch you around whatever circumstances you're around. You're going to start from an untrustworthy, starting point, it seems.
You're gonna
All
watch
right.
Shoe. Make sure he's got shoes on. Watch
Yeah.
Shoe.
Yeah, I got to make sure, he keeps his
See
shoes
how I did
on.
that?
Maybe he's like he's just a cobbler, He's big in the shoe game.
what the fuck?
He's
Yeah,
the next.
what kind of stupid ass nickname? Shoeless Joe.
Had
Like,
shoe pop off during
man.
a
Like
game or something.
I am always leaving the house without my shoes. I'm just terrible about it.
I have a feeling he wasn't a big fan of it either. Be like, dude, I hit fucking 420.
Yeah.
Call me shoeless fucking Joe? What the shit, man?
No,
Fucking
there
act
had to
like
be a
I'm
reason.
fucking leaving
You
my
gotta call
car
somebody like
keys
that
everywhere I
shoeless.
go. Like constantly, there goes fucking lock his keys in his car, Jackson.
No, I know a guy that you could call shoeless, okay? And he's perfectly fine with it because he hates shoes. He'll go into a customer's house, first thing he does, do you need me to take my shoes off? Oh, I'll take them off. No. This is a nice clean house. I'll take my shoes off. It's because he hates shoes. He wants to work with no shoes on. Shoeless Joe, I think, probably really, he encompassed that. He saw the name and he said, you know what? I am Shoeless Joe. I'm not wearing these.
He just
things.
owned it. He embraced it. He's like, this is
Yeah,
my
that's-
identity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he just had a foot fetish. And that's what he was known for.
Oh, it was a reflection.
Yeah. Instead of him
He
calling
was
him
shoeless
little,
because he
little-
wanted
little
you
footy,
shoeless.
They called him shoeless because he was
Instead of calling him Horny Toes Joe, Toe Sucker Joe, Foot Licker Joe.
Yeah.
Call me
That
shoeless.
was their wink and nod.
Clean it up a
fucking,
little bit.
that was their
Horny-
wink and
horny
nod. They
toes.
called him Shoeless Joe, but it was always like everybody like
Sorry.
knew like that was just code for like suck them toes, Jackson.
Toe Fucker Jackson.
He's the Kevin Durant of old school baseball.
Yeah. Oh, man.
weird fetishes, and all the women in the areas knew about it.
All right. Well, all right, guys. Well, enjoy our fucking what would you call this? Like our history lesson on the
high quality
the name of
historical,
the historical etymology of Joe Jackson and
high quality
And,
historical speculation.
shoes.
Ken
Shove
Burns.
those toes in your face and suck on them.
Yeah,
That'll-
we fucking can burn the shit out of you at the end of this episode. So suck on them toes.
Next
All
time,
right,
guys.
folks. See you next week. Peace out.
I love how we never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I did not foresee that.
And with
Did not at all.
Shoeless Joe Jackson sucking toes.
It's really interesting how the end wraps up because it's like, well, I guess this is it. So let's just riff on this. Yeah. How'd he get that name? Well, the obvious thing is shoe probably popped off, but he kept running. But no, fuck that. Fuck that. It's something else.
Yeah.